Okay, finally. Sorry about that.
Welcome back.
Yep.
Long.
So, sorry. You were talking about quite a few things exactly. What's the main general topic, I guess, that you're covering right
Well, sort of. It's like we're working on a project. Me and Certino, we're working on a video course. So we were just like bouncing like we're at like we have like a shared like basis, so we can bounce off ideas off of each other already,
now?
right? And so like it's kind of like it might be difficult to sort of grasp from the outside what we're talking about. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no worries. No worries. What is your what is the course generally about?
Like
Is it kind of like
Gibson's,
articulating? Yeah, go on.
like the Gibsonian defense against transcendentalism, basically.
I see. And how do you understand transcendentalism? Because there's many different ways. I mean, of course, when it comes to like, do you by that do you mean something along the lines of that perception
I feel
or
like
knowledge?
I explained it to you before. I feel like I showed you.
Well, I
like
mean,
I showed you like the general, or was like it was. I was saying, oh, it's pinned in general. Remember?
let's see here.
Remember, I said like, oh, it's pinned in general, and I was reading it too, or we were looking at it.
Let me just pull up here transcendentalism.
No, it was this right here. Remember?
Ah,
Um,
perfect. Let me see here.
let me ping.
Cool. Oh shit. Okay, let's have a look here.
Yeah, you already looked at this. Remember?
Oh, I see. I see. So that's yeah. Transcendentalism and transcendental arguments not the same thing. Um,
Mhm.
Firstly, so a thing is transcendental as opposed to transcendent when it is a necessary condition for the very possibility of something, and said possibility is usually something that's actually taking place. So, for instance, when Kant uh, used the term like transcendental idealism, what he meant was that okay, there are certain conditions that are necessary in order for knowledge to be possible whatsoever. Uh, and without these conditions, it would be impossible for us to have any kind of knowledge of things as particulars, for instance, or things as individuals, uh, and the like. And so when you
Yes,
say that,
I'm familiar with this
yeah,
argument.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure for the audience as well. And so when it comes to like, okay, certain kinds of
It's just like
transcendental
our
arguments.
understanding of them, like our understanding of transcendental arguments, like is like we give it like a we take our own like characterization of them, right? It's like we're engaging in like philosophical detection here. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Sure.
That's like
You're
the
detecting certain kinds of arguments that you deem transcendental and are trying to undermine them, refute them. How are you going about trying to show that?
well, it's a lot of different things. We're just trying to basically a lot of it is that there's a lot of like hidden kind of like assumptions in this sort of like the whole strategy of like bringing in transcendental arguments or like things like that, right? Like how it's like used against sort of empiricist and naturalist whatever, right? To be like oh, naturalism can't explain this, empiricism can't have this, or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You need God,
Sure.
or you need innate knowledge, or whatever, right? Some unentailed entailer.
In the case of those kinds of arguments where it's like, okay, in order for any of this to be possible, you need to have something that's, or there has to be something already that is, rather, that is a necessary condition for that kind of thing. And so you're saying
Well,
that
it's
that
sort
kind
of
of thing
it's
is
sort
ad
of
hoc, I'm
yeah,
assuming?
yeah. But it's sort of like we start with, there's no missing pieces, like perception is unified, right? We start there. And it's like, well, our theory says that like the basis of perception or whatever, the supposed basis of perception is too impoverished to entail it, right? It doesn't have all this order and organization present in behavior. It doesn't have all these terms, right? Like something's missing, right? Our theory says something's missing, right? That's what it's saying. Basically, it's saying like well, it's saying the world that we perceive, like the world of change in particulars can't be real because it's the world that we perceive, you know. So we just purify it. We purify change in particulars through pure reason, and that's the real world, you know. It's sort of that kind of move. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But then that reality or whatever, that standard of reality is too impoverished to entail what you started with, right? The world of change in particulars, right? That we perceive, right? Where there's no missing pieces, where perception is unified, right? You get what I'm saying?
Sure. Sure.
And so they sort of like, how do we bridge this dualism? Well, like Descartes and everybody else is like, God is benevolent and won't like deceive me, so he ensures me certain knowledge and stuff. You know, he ensures I have certain knowledge, right?
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like
Sure.
this extra faculty that I have access to, that I can transcend nature with, right? Is just like, it's like faith. It's like I've been giving it by God. Like God's just giving me the knowledge. You know what I mean? Because like I'm not getting it from perception. It's like Plato's two epistemologies and two ontologies that are totally separate. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Where do I start? What are your main Oh, so I guess you were laying out some of your criticisms, I guess, of like
Yeah.
transcendental arguments here. So they, in a sense, you're saying that they rest upon some kind of intuition or some kind of non uh, perceivable or some kind of transcendent source of
Yeah.
knowledge or some kind like that.
And I would go further than that. That's like that's a violation of the second law. For one, it's like
Second
you're
law of
thermodynamics. Yeah, it's saying,
thermodynamics.
yeah, like the Platonic mind.
Yeah,
That
that's yeah. Don't bring in thermodynamics here because it's
well, no,
completely
I would.
irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
No, it's not, because again, it's basically you're extracting work from an already homogeneous, already spread out source, right? Or potential, right? And that's just not possible. You're
Well, you're
effectively
presupposing right
increasing.
there that the amount of energy in the universe is fixed. That's one
Well, no,
thing, but you're also
again, like this is whole like I generalize the law, like the violations of the laws of thermodynamics to like all these logical issues, you know? Because
yeah.
I
It's that almost is a kind of Pythagoreanism if you're going to do that and say that the
no, but
world
it's
is.
not.
So you're saying
It's
that
not
the
in my
law of
view. No,
thermodynamics reigns supreme over rules of like logical entailment, like
no,
logical
no,
entailment.
no. I don't know what you mean by that. Like not like I don't know what you mean by
Certain, certain.
that.
Let me put it this way: the logical relationships of necessity and possibility, these kinds of
Right, that's
what's
just
known as.
purely deduct. That's not really necessity. That's just the rigor of syntactic formalism, right? That's just it. That's it's not necessity. It's you're conflating necessity. You're elevating formalism to ontology when you do that, right? Like
I'm speaking strictly
necessity.
of logical
I
rules
identify.
here, not
Yeah, I
not
identify necessity within predicative loops, closed loops of entailment, which is given to us by the first law, really.
of thermodynamics.
Yes, conservational symmetries are closed loops of entailment.
Okay. The What do you take logic to be exactly? Logic as would you
Well,
view it
again,
as
the objectivist view of logic, right, is like
the art of non-contradictory identification?
yeah, but you know
That's
what you do know the difference between the objectivist view of logic and like sort of classical logic,
by classical logic here. Do we mean the
like
Russellian, Fregean
Aristotelian.
notion of logic? The Aristotelian logic, so categorical logic. Okay.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
just like the view that it's just like sort of facts independent of like the requirements of knowledge of them, right? That's what logic deals with. But like the objectivist view is that we have to equally account for the requirements of knowledge here, right? Like context and hierarchy, right? That's what they say. You know?
Sure. So when it comes to logic in both the Aristotelian sense as well as the Randian sense, it's primarily concerned with judgment, the nature of
Yeah.
judgment. Now, a
Yeah.
judgment is something that is it's a logical entity, you might call it, as well as a psychological entity. An act of thinking, but at the same time, though, it also bears certain kinds of relationships to uh, uh, other kinds of thoughts we might have. So, for instance, if you have a particular, if you're making a judgment, now that judgment might commit you to affirm other judgments to be true or deny other judgments to be true. If you, I mean, there's many different kinds of logics in the
Mhm,
more
mhm.
specific sense. But
Man, that's because just the world is non-formalizable, right? But
sure, I mean, in
what
the
do the
sense that it
laws of
cannot be.
thermodynamics give us? What the laws of thermodynamics give us, they're literally just they're bookkeeping measures, right? They're just accounting for the universe itself. It's they're the standard. I what I mean is like these concepts, right? They're the standard of like what is explanatory in science and physics, right? You identify some system, right? Like say, like if you're looking at a system and it looks like energy is being lost or gained, that means you need to expand your view, right? Because then that like if you if you don't, you have a perpetual motion machine of the first kind, right? And then you just don't have a universe anymore, you know? They're just like it's accounting for the continuity of the universe itself. Like this thing and this thing over here are not in separate universes, right? You can never say that, right? That's all it's
So
saying.
are you saying that so how do we come to know these laws of thermodynamics? Like,
Right.
how do
Yeah.
we come?
Yeah, I would say they passed the test of like what's it called? Um the test of
Reaffirmation through
like
denial.
yeah, reaffirmation through denial.
Reaffirmation through denial?
Yes, they do. Yeah, like if you read Swenson's papers, he's talking about how like the first and second law are mutually entailed in every act of every epistemic act, every act of measurement, right?
So the kind of so in a sense, it's a not a there's different terms here when it comes to like reaffirmation through denial. For instance, the proposition uh, I or well, let me put it this way: a judgment of the form like nothing exists
Mhm.
is by itself it's not
Yeah, I know it's not a justification.
contradictory. It's not contradictory as such. However, the very fact of affirming such a judgment that
Right,
involves a performative contradiction on our part, and so it cannot be
right,
true because my very act of judging such a thing involves the existence of that very judgment. But
right. It's not proof. I'm not saying it's a proof. Right. I mean, we don't like the objectivists. They don't think axioms are proven, right? You know what I mean?
but you're saying that
Yeah.
this
So
I
I'm
mean
saying
obviously not something
basically the first and second
why,
law
why would
together.
okay, I'll
I
let
think
you.
like if I'm connecting this to basic like the objectivist axioms or whatever, right? I would just say the laws of thermodynamics together is the law of identity, like this first and second law, right? And so existence is identity, but like I would say existence, that part is the first law, and the exists part is the second law. You know what I mean? You can have one without the other. That's like how I connect it to like the objectivist axioms, kind of, you know?
I see. I see. And so the let's see, how do I go
Or
about?
sort of conflate them with it. You know what I mean?
I see. So would you say that these laws here, I mean, when was it that they were discovered? Would you say that
Yeah.
these laws are discoveries, or would you say that they are postulates in the same way that for instance, a postulate like I don't know, like the principle of least action. That's like a postulate. It's something that might not be true,
I
might
would
be
definitely
true.
say they're like they're discovered a posteriori, right? but they're necessary a posteriori facts, right?
Necessary a posteriori. So like the identification of H2O and water, kind of, you're saying.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So would you say that
They're just
it's
symmetry principles. They're just symmetry principles, right? Their invariance law is like you're identifying symmetries of nature, right, among things.
mhm. Now is a world wherein these laws of like thermodynamics and the like, where they do not obtain, would you say that those such things are conceivable?
Um, I would like I understand what you're saying here, but
Because if it's the
I
case,
don't
if
think
they
so.
are,
I don't think so. No, it's
okay.
the concept of the universe entirely or world or whatever is totally unintelligible. And once you have perpetual motion,
I'm strictly speaking. So like, but it's conceivable though that something could have a perpetual motion. I mean,
no,
obviously, it's you're saying
like
that it is.
no, it makes it. It's like it's not coherent. You know what I mean? It's like
You
saying
could
glue.
imagine it though, right? You
Like
can imagine.
no, yeah, like what you're imagining, right, is an impossibility. Like you're basically you're talking about it with reference to like what's possible, right? The laws of thermodynamics, like as a
Right.
standard of what's possible, right?
But it
You're
might be
referring to that.
impossible in the way our world, our
Yeah, it doesn't make
physical
no
world is
sense. Like
structured.
the concept of the universe entirely is unintelligible once you have perpetual motion. Like you literally don't have a universe at that point.
But it's important
You
to distinguish here between like, okay, a physical system and reality. So I think you might. So when you say
no,
like reality or a world,
again, the laws of thermodynamics are accounting for like literally the continuity of the universe itself, like among like across reference frames. That's like Noether's innovation of the first law, right? She unified all the conservation principles, right? Which were like basically seen as like anomalies, right? Before Noether, right? Like just all these different conservation principles in all these fields, right? And then she came and like unified them. With their Noether's theorems, right?
I'm not familiar with the name, but the
Emmy Noether.
who Annie Noether,
Emmy Noether.
Emmy Noether. Let me look her up.
Yeah, like super same famous physicist. Like Einstein went to her and like to understand.
Abstract algebra, second first order
Yeah,
theorems.
Einstein went to her to
Perhaps.
basically get help with understanding the first law of thermodynamics, right, as it pertains to general relativity, right?
Let's see
So she
here.
unified, right, conservation principles. She was like, basically, the main idea is that every differentiable symmetry of nature has a corresponding conservation law, and so, like, it's like all these different conservations, right? They're sort of like you can trace, like they're all about like all basically all forms of energy are interconvertible, right? You know what I'm saying? There's a commensurability basically to different, like they're all interconvertible, with the total energy remaining invariant
Mhm.
across
Let's.
the varied interconversions, right? Sorry, my mouth is super dry here. I need
Yeah,
to
no
drink some
worries.
water.
Bro, drink some water, gang.
Here it is. But yeah, uh, yeah. The first law can be restated like a couple of different ways. Like it's saying like the unity is giving us the unity of all things, or the finitude of the universe, right?
So it seems that, well, I'm just going to say this just real quick here. It seems that you're identifying and treating them as perfectly identical. The physical world and reality as
It's what
such. So
physical. It's what. Yeah, I mean, but like what physical means, what the concept of universe means, is what the first law refers to, which is
so if we're
universal time translation symmetry across reference frames of the universe across reference frames, or of physics across reference frames.
and by reference frames, in this case, you mean
It's
like
just any
information.
substantial thing. Like you take as this the like to define the scale, like the correct, you know what I mean, like as the unit, right?
Like, for instance, like a
As the
coordinate
unit of measurement, the unit of
by
reference.
or units of measurement. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
that's going to be a
Unit
bit
of reference.
different. The and where so let me just put it get this sorted out here, because there's certain things. So when it comes to
It's basically saying
how
that like every distinction, right? Every distinction, every change is like both sides of that are like numbers that add up to one, right? Fully and completely without remainder, right? So a change in one side is a proportional change in the other side, right? Nothing is
okay,
lost, nothing's gained, right? They're both units of some conserved totality, right? You basically, like the first law is like as a bookkeeping measure, is telling you to account for the energy units on both sides, right? Of the transformation, any process, right? So yeah, so you're accounting for the universe. It's part of the same universe as everything else.
I see.
You don't have
The
any nothing
Yeah, go on.
from you never have any like something from nothing incommensurabilities, you know?
I see.
It's just ensuring
Um,
that, you know? It's just that's
mhm,
like the standard. That's why it's the standard of what's explanatory in science. The laws of thermodynamics, they're like the other so-called laws of physics are hardly laws compared to the laws of thermodynamics. I mean, well, the other so-called laws are just syntactic rules. They're like Newton's laws are just definitions, right? The laws of thermodynamics are not like just definitions like Newton's laws are. You know,
I see.
they're symmetry principles.
Let's see. Trying to think where to even begin. Um, let's see.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
maybe go back to why you're sort of interrogating me on this, right?
because it's we have something that's empirical, and we
Mhm.
have something like, for instance, in the case of like, okay, a physical system. How do we even know that there's such a thing as a physical system at all? And when we speak of a physical system, right, that's something that is we
Yeah,
tend
so
to distinguish
again,
that from
epistemic standards, right, must be based on the requirements of knowledge. You can't sort of
right.
imagine up
And
some
knowledge is
impossible
supposed
like
to be
if
something,
your epistemic standard, like your standard of knowledge or certainty or truth or whatever, is like omniscience, right? You're like you couldn't have gotten that standard from the requirements of knowledge, right? You couldn't have gotten it from reality. You just like imagined it up, basically. You know what I mean? And so it's equivocal. It's equivocal with any arbitrary, like incompatible, like uh claim, right? And like as like an infinite number of such arbitrary claims can be made on the same non-basis, right? There's no basis to prefer any one arbitrary claim over any other, right? But it's like you're trying to downgrade reality by reference to fantasy when you take like an impossible standard, you know? It's like a timeless unit of time, basically, or a spaceless unit of space, right?
I see.
And that's like
One
basically
moment.
what I thought you were trying to say. You're like, how do I even know this, right? Well, yeah, that's asking for an epistemic standard, you know? It's asking after some epistemic standard, right?
Now, do you hold to, let me, one moment here. I'm just, hang on, I'm getting a text message.
Yeah, it's just like I think it's so crucial because like what I take to be like the standard of like explanation, right? Is just like there's no unentailed terms. You know, you have a closed loop of entailment. I mean, there's no room for smuggling in any unentailed terms. Like there's no room for external positing of like unexplained explainers, right?
Now, do the laws of thermodynamics themselves, as you're saying, now are these things explicable in your view? Do they have any possible
Yeah.
explanation for them, or no?
Yes, of course, because there's no unentailed terms, right?
So they explain
It's
themselves essentially. They are
well,
self-explaining, self.
not like in a pure self-reference sense. Remember, like it's like you can talk about x in terms of y, or you can talk about y in terms of x, like in the predicative loop. But you can't do both at once because they're not identical, right? But you need both, like, but no one way exhausts the loop itself. You know what I mean?
So then there's a this, let's say, let's call X the laws of thermodynamics, and then Y,
Mhm.
I'm assuming that would be physical processes, I guess, themselves.
Right.
So physical processes, those are being explained in terms of the laws of thermodynamics, and then the laws of thermodynamics are then being, I guess, illustrated by, or they get their kind of content, if you want to call it that, through the very physical processes in terms of which we understand uh,
They're expressed
the laws. I
basically.
see.
They're expressed
And
in
so that system there, we have on the
yes.
one side the laws, and then on the other hand, on the other side, we have the a physical system itself. Now,
Mhm.
we can't say that relationship there. So we have a relation between two terms, right?
Well, yeah,
Neither is the other.
I would say this is more we're talking about more like a logical like relationship. You know what I mean?
So there's no. So would you say that
Well, I'm
the
just like
physical
I'm not
universe? Oh, go on.
like the what we're talking about. Like it's not like I'm saying the law. There's an entity over here called the
Yeah,
laws of
by that
thermodynamics.
I'm yeah. By the relation here, I simply mean that I'm speaking of explanation in the sense, like
Yes,
so
yes,
like
exactly.
as opposed
We're
to like
talking about
actually like a
entailment.
physical thing that's a law, like not exactly that, but in terms of like explanation or terms of explanations, that is. So like for instance, we could have um like for instance,
Basically, like entailment, right? It's just like whether it's entailed or not. You know, like it answers why questions, right?
mhm.
You get what I'm saying? So like when you have a closed loop of entailment, right? All of the why questions are answerable within the system. So it's like why x, y, x, right? So there's nothing else to ask. You get what I'm saying?
Well, not necessarily.
Well, yes,
I mean, for
necessarily.
instance, well, why then is well, you said okay, well, why? Well, let me. Well, let's use A and B because Y and X, because
Because the
we're going to use
system is
Y.
rich enough in entailment.
In the case of that, though, well, what if we use instead of X and Y, because the
This is straight
Y
from
we have the
Rosen too,
question.
by the way.
Uh,
Like you should see it in Life Itself or Essays on Life Itself, where he
yeah,
talks about this.
he has the double-sided arrow, and
Yeah.
so if we substitute X for and Y for A and B, okay. So we explain A in terms of B and B in terms of
Yes.
A. If we ask, well,
Yes.
why A? Well, because of B. Well, why B? Because of A. Well,
Mhm.
we can then, in that system itself, we could always ask, why is it the case that Y or that A and B are explained in terms of each other?
Right, because they are
That question
participating in
cannot
their own
itself
definition.
be, but
They're
that question
participating
though
in
is
their own
not.
definition, right?
But that itself is not the same thing as either A or B.
Of course. Well, it's just talking about the loop itself. There's impredicativities here. That's all. It's all it's saying. And so
But the loop itself, though, is
this
neither one of the terms of the relation in question. It is itself the
well,
relationship between the two things. So it's not
right,
itself
right. It's
one of
not.
the
It's not.
terms in
Again,
question.
yeah. It's not either X or Y, right? It's like the relationship among them, right? But again, the entailment doesn't flow, right? Say like it doesn't flow from X alone and Y alone, and then you get X plus Y. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't flow that way. It flows X plus Y, and then that larger system differentiates X with respect to Y, and then Y with respect to X.
Now, is that the largest? So the relationship. So for when you spoke of like, okay, well,
The
when we
conserved
have these,
totality. The conserved totality is like X and Y are numbers that add up to one, right? So there's a mutuality and a reciprocity. There's a symmetry and asymmetry, right? They have different values, right? But they you can add them together to get one, right?
Can you add? So when let me just put it this way. The or ask this. I'm kind of curious here, just trying to grasp everything. So when we're in that kind of situation where we're asking questions about particular things, right? We
Right.
have like when we ask, well, why is let's use A and B instead of X and Y because the
Yeah,
word Y.
I think maybe like sort of like ecological information, the way Turvey explains it is like it might clarify, right? So he talks about how it's like X or the information, right, entails the source of its entailment, right?
Well, that's kind of like a transcendental argument. Yeah,
No, it's
we
not
would
because
not be
it's again it's a loop, it's a loop, it's a loop,
It,
it's a loop.
well, here, let me explain why it would be. So the structure of a transcendental argument takes the following form. P. Uh, well, let me just put it this way. I actually, believe it or not, I just pulled up. I had my notes here from 2020.
Yeah, it's just the structure. Remember, information is just the structure of the like sort of low energy uh distribution right around you, right? It's just structure, right? So it's structure. It's not the energy itself, right? It's the structure of the energy, right? So it entails the source of its structure, right? And sort of like how like pointing, right? Referring, right? This is very essential to basically how anything can be about another thing, right? This impredicativity stuff, right? So it's like I can point to, like I can only point to the cat on the mat because the cat on the mat is there for me to point to it. You know what I mean? My pointing, right? My pointing is not referring to my finger; it's referring to something beyond it. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Sure, yeah,
referring to
in
the
that
pointing
case,
itself.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
right. And I would agree with that in
And
that
that's
case.
only because it's only because the thing I'm pointing to is also referring to the pointing.
One moment. I have another text.
Okay. This is also an
Sorry.
example from Turvey, by the way. And so it's he gives another example like optical flow. Optical flow is ego motion is relative. I mean, optical flow, right? Is specific to ego motion relative to the surface layout, and ego motion relative to the surface layout is specific to optic flow. Like it literally is guided by optic flow, right? But it also structures optic flow, right?
I see. I see. Hang on one second.
And it's sort of like an ecological law, right? It's an invariance, right? That's why it's like you change one side, it's a change in the other. You know what I mean? Like there's a property of like the ambient array is like these ambient energy patterns, right? Are is invariantly linked to these facts of behavior, right? These sort of styles of change, right? Specific kinds of change, right?
Yeah. One second. So I'm just thinking about this a second here. So the
This is all super essential for like ecological psychology. Like this is the whole thing, you know. This is the whole like ecological information hypothesis is entirely based on this notion of specificity, right? So like what makes for a theory of direct perception for the ecological psychologists.
So would you say that unless information has a particular structure or is structured a certain way?
It's basically there's already order, right? In nature.
Sure.
You don't need the platonic order imposing mind, right? There's spatial and temporal dimensionality to things in nature, right? Among things, right?
Right.
Like, it's not the classical empiricist view where it's just like you have all these particles and they don't have any spatial or temporal dimensionality, right? And then that has to be imposed by the mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, certain empiricists would hold to something along
Yeah,
those lines.
yeah.
Now,
But we talked about this last time, why information
yeah,
is not processed, right?
yeah, I mean, I agree with you when it comes to like, yeah, the anti like process view of things, as well as like any kind of view which tries to, I don't know, like say that okay, like the brain it constructs like the third dimension, or it kind of like churns everything out.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, in that case, we would each of us be living in an autobiography of our own illusions.
Mhm.
To put it in a way that Santayana did. But in that case, I mean, again, see, that would be a kind of physiological subjectivism. I mean, into the head, the whole world goes, including the head itself. Uh,
Yeah. And I like to say like content cannot be internalized because the world cannot be internalized.
yeah, I mean, in that case, it would be internalized in like in the sense of like, yeah, it can't be itself reduced to. You can't have the entire world as being an adjective of your brain.
Yeah.
Basically, you can't do that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
Because the brain
Because
itself
where
would
did
have
you get
an
it?
adjective of itself. It
Well,
would have
where did you get it from? Right? Like say like these like localization of function, right? Like views, right? Where it's like where they do like lesion studies where the like some like part of the brain gets damaged and there's like, oh, the person can't do this thing anymore, right? It's like, where did you get that function from? You know what I mean? Did you look at this part of the brain and it's like you found it in there? You know?
Yeah, it doesn't make it. Yeah, exactly. That's like
You
saying
know what I
that
mean?
you destroy a radio and then you kill the
Or where
operator
did
on
you
the
get it
radio
from?
station.
That's the important part.
Make
Where did you
sense.
get it from?
I think.
You got it from the larger system, right? That you're
Yeah, that
now
too. Yeah.
basically trying to erase, right?
Yeah. It. Well, again, too. Yeah, you could view it many different ways. On the one hand, like yeah, exactly like you're saying, it doesn't make any sense except in the context of that larger system where that person is able to
Yes.
even say that okay, I can no longer see anything in my anything at all.
Right.
Well, I
That's why
mean,
we say they're
yeah.
facts of the organism environment system as a whole.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that in the sense, even though I'm anti-nature. No, I would agree. I would agree with you though. In that case, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to try and reduce everything to like to say that everything depends upon a lesion. Well, or
Yeah, I
like
mean, well,
not or a
it's
lesion
like
not
what
happening.
Turvey calls a loan of intelligence or a non-repayable loan of intelligence. Like you're just going to the intelligence brink and you're taking a loan, like you're
Yeah.
explaining intelligence, like you're trying to explain intelligence, right? But you're using what you're trying to explain in order to explain it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. It's one
It's
thing
a
that kind of
petitio principii. It's like begging the question, you know?
yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting and relevant here is you've heard of like you've I mean it seems from what I've read so far like the so-called extended mind view of things where like
Yeah.
okay I'm assuming you're very familiar with this, but I mean I
Yes.
think I take it for granted. It seems obvious that
Mhm.
your if you want to call it like your mind is not or what we might take to be like experience
Yeah.
in
I mean,
general.
like
It's
Gibson
not.
has this quote is when he's talking about like the outness problem or whatever, like how is like, you know, basically why do I feel like I use a stick to tap on the wall. Why do I feel it at the end of the stick and not my hand? Right?
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's
Like how do I
but
know
again,
if all I have is what's on my hand? How do I know to basically translate it outwards? You know what I mean?
yeah.
How
I
do
mean
I
like
know that it needs to be fixed? And it's also
that.
like
Yeah, definitely. That's a
if,
good example of like in the case of that extension, that
yeah.
extendedness or that
And
outness in the
Turvey
case
has
of
a
like
lot of like
the
work
body.
on this.
But even in the case of a fucking notebook, when you think about it,
Yeah.
imagine you would like how impoverished you would be without like I mean for me in my case I if I didn't have notes, I mean, of course, I'm going on the fly right now, but if I was completely didn't have any access to like my notes that I've written down by hand, which almost in a kind of sense, it's almost as if like they're ideas that are literally almost crystallized external to my body in a sense.
Well, again,
They're
like I would be careful about that. Like the symbols, right, are just like they're stable enough to just sit there and be treated as inert for our purposes. So we can like I can be in the middle of reading it and I can just like leave, right, and
sure,
then come back to reading it, right.
right,
But like it doesn't mean anything unless I have independent
right, yeah,
access, right, to what the meaning I'm attributing to it, right.
right, right.
I have
It's
independent
eating bread.
access to it,
It's like breadcrumbs essentially. It's
right. Like
not.
if I say this lasagna, this plated lasagna, like it represents broomsticks, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna fucking like no amount of studying the fucking plate of lasagna is gonna get me any knowledge about
Anyone,
broomsticks.
yeah, anyone external to like anyone other than yourself would have no idea that it means broomstick. So yeah, in that case, like that
Yes,
if you want to say the aboutness of the thing, it's of course derived.
but
It's
of
only
course,
in relation to you.
plates of
Uh,
lasagna don't work as great symbols because they're not easily like replicable, and they're uh like what makes for a great symbol is that like it's easily like repeatable, and like you can put it in like you can put it on a page and it just stays there for like ages, right. And like
yeah,
and it's like minimally discriminable, right. It has like a minimal like amount of like features in order to discriminate this symbol from that symbol. You know what I mean? Like Shannon information works, right?
it's I just wanted to bring this up. This is kind of interesting because on the one hand, I'm in complete agreement with people like Rosen when he speaks about this distinction between complexity and simplicity. I'm
Yeah.
100% in agreement with him. And I would just use different terms. It's very interesting because when he speaks of this like impredicativity as being the hallmark of complex systems, and then this predicativity as being a hallmark of
And
simple
what he
systems.
means really by that, the what he means like he says basically complexity is saying like what it's like
It's
there's
irreducible stuff.
there's an essential semantic component, right?
Sure, yeah, yeah,
That can't be removed. Like it's like
right.
there's no one formal description that exhausts the its identity, right? There's multiple non-equivalent ways of interacting with the system or describing it, right? It's like
I
remember, right? I can go from X to Y or Y to X, but I can't do both at once, right? But neither one way exhausts the whole loop, right?
sure, sure,
That's
yeah.
the essential semantic component.
I would say that the semantics is a bit more complex than that. So it's even more complex than like it's more richer in the sense that even just that. Because again, that too, even that very like X movement from X to Y, Y to X, even that's like I'm kind of like taking Rosen even further than like
Mhm.
yeah. So I'm like going full on board with this in a sense. Um, yeah, pushing it to like the max here because I mean for me, it's interesting because in some of my work that I've done like over the years, I speak of this when Rosen speaks of impredicativity, it's very similar to what I call like self differentiation
Yeah.
into itself or for self. So it's in whereas in the case of like a material object, for
Yes.
instance, like a dead thing, it's differentiated, but it's differentiated always for another.
And this
It's
is
not
exactly
differentiated
why
for itself.
Hervey connects it, the prohibition of imperativities with the prohibition of self-causation or self-organization, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
like
I mean, yeah. I would,
like how the
pursue that.
liar's paradox, it's devolved onto two parts. That's because we're prohibiting looking at the larger system. We're looking at the only the smaller system, right? So it's like we posit like one is an unmoved mover that moves the other. Like there's no like things don't move, they get moved, right?
Mm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say that there's only the mover, the moved, and the motion, and it's all one.
Right. There's no
Uh,
dualism of the mover and the moved. I
yeah,
understand. I agree.
yeah, and that's one of the things too when it comes to things like yeah. I mean, so it's interesting because there's I think there's a lot of like detail.
But that
A lot of
requires
details, I
impredicativity,
think.
right?
Yeah, I would use a different term for that, but no, I'm in complete agreement with you on that. Like, yeah, you can't have, no matter how many plant. So I actually have I wrote this out a couple of years ago, but it's exactly what you're getting at here. And I think if I remember correctly, where did I get this? Or no, where did I see it before? Let me pull it up. It's on something that I wrote regarding the Leibniz's mill thing here. Let me pull it up. 1 second, because this is exactly what uh,
I know Leibniz had some similar views.
yeah, he had yeah, like even the monad too. His conception of the monad, it's internally differentiated, and it would have that kind of impredicativity kind of thing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
uh something that is
And like sort of like the particles of like Newtonian physics, right? Are just like structureless particles, right?
right.
I mean they're purely
Whereas
formal objects, like just like
exactly.
the symbols in a Turing machine, you know?
Exactly. Whereas the monads, on the other hand, that they have this internal dynamism, and they're
Yes,
kind of
right.
like internally complex. But at the
Dude,
same time, they're
I
not.
sent you that book, The Reciprocity of Perceiver and Environment, right? The history book on like Gibson's thought or development of his thought and like tracing it through like history and stuff. Like it talks a lot about like the parallels between like Gibson's views of like reciprocity and stuff like that and like Leibniz views. Like Leibniz had some similar views, but also Leibniz was a rationalist, of course. It's
Mm,
like Gibson takes the view like he like holism is usually associated with rationalism in the history of philosophy, right? Like Leibniz, Hegel, all these people, right? Or maybe Kant even, right?
mm.
They're all like holists but also rationalist. Gibson, he drops the rationalism, right? He's a holistic empiricist.
I just sent you something. So this actually might be this. Believe it or not, it's very, very, very similar to things that Rosen has to say. Uh, I mean, I wrote this out like independently
Did
a
I
couple of
send you
years
that
ago.
before?
Yes, you did. Yeah.
It's an interesting
Um,
history to see like the influences of Gibson. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely, definitely. This
Mm.
I'll just read this little tiny section here, but it's exactly what you've been talking about when it comes to like, okay, you cannot get to impredicativity from just a mere
Yeah.
duplication of
Where is this?
predicate. This is on my blog in the VC, or it's on
Oh,
the
in
VC.
VC text. Okay, I see.
Yes, exactly. Um, it's so I speak of so when I speak of like mind or experience, I use the term experience for what uh, uh, one might say. Think of experience as the broadest possible sense of um, uh, you could think of experience as the relationship between the how do I translate this
Yeah,
into
Shaw makes a similar point. I think like he has like a paper called Processes, Acts, and Experiences.
Mhm.
Like he makes a similar point to what I think you're making. You're talking about.
So here's the example that I kind of pulled together here. So I speak of so I say this. Um, if we were to take infinitely many coplanar geometrical figures, so all like they're all flat, just geometrical
Yeah.
figures of various determinable shapes and sizes. So we have triangles, squares, and stuff. They're all
Mm.
flat, just lying on a table, basically, and have them expand, contract, and move about for an infinite time
Uh-huh.
on that flat sheet. We can rest assured that no transformation, redistribution, pattern, or
Mhm.
collision of said figures will ever yield a new figure with
Mhm.
cubical content, a figure that not only exhibits a new dimension, namely like depth, but
Mhm.
also envelops those aforementioned plane geometrical figures in the same way that you might have like okay a bunch of like flat 2D shapes that are swallowed up by a cube.
It's like the
a
whole
more
flatland and spaceland thing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. You'll never be able to just by like two-dimensional flat people like just moving about
Yeah.
on a surface. You're never gonna get out of that, no matter how many times they bang into each other.
Mhm.
You're on that surface. You're never going to get out of that a magic like a cube that swallows them up.
Right. And the way
Possible.
Rosen talks about this is that sort of when you engage in formalization, right? Sort of you're sort of like creating this whole like surrogate universe, this whole extremely small, impoverished and entailment surrogate universe that
Mhm.
once you're inside, you can spend like the physicist or whatever can spend like ages just like in the formalized universe, just playing with the like these particles and their rules of like motion, you know, like the rules of entailment, right, that are beyond the reach of entailment. But they can just keep playing with this because like they can never get outside of it by any purely internal syntactic means, right?
I'm in complete agreement with that. If it was the case that their theory or what they take to be this posited world of, like, for
Mhm.
instance, like points, lines, and surfaces and things like that,
Right.
if that was the case, how things are, that theory, we then have to ask ourselves, well, is such a theory consistent with our knowledge of its truth? And such a
Right.
theory, if it was true, well, we'd never be able to even know it. We'd be stuck in that plane. We'd have no knowledge of such a thing because it would make it. So it can't be the case that yeah, we actually are confined in
There's
that
always
sense.
there's always unentailed components in such a formalism, right? These
Right.
the rules of entailment that are pushing around sort of these structureless particles or whatever. They're beyond the reach of entailment. They're beyond the like all the entailment comes from the rules that are fixed in advance, but that entailment, like in the formalism, can't entail the rules, right?
Mhm. It's yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm in complete like agreement when it comes to things like
But then it's like, okay, I guess we can. There's a trend like nature is transcendental to the formalism. You know what I mean? And predicativities are transcendental to this like predicative formalism.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. I would say that they exhibit something that cannot itself be reduced to, nor in any sense. They almost, in a sense, kind of are the very presupposition
Right.
uh, for the very possibility of predicativity, in a
Yeah.
sense.
Rosen
It
basically
all
says
depends
you're
on.
you're stopping the loop from closing. You're like breaking open the loop. You're destroying it, and that's how you get these
Yeah,
linear chains. You know. A better way of saying is like you have
it's a
x and
distraction from
y.
impredicativity almost.
Yeah.
That's
You
what a
have X
predicate.
and Y who are like mutually entailed, right? The arrow is pointing to each, like to both ways. You know what I mean? So if you try and fractionate X or Y from this relationship, right, all you're gonna do is lose all of the properties and behaviors of Y or X, right? That depend on that relationship, right? That depend on the loop, right? And
Mm,
so with this fragment, right? This isolated fragment, you can manipulate it syntactically, right? Because it cannot recover the sort of original dynamics and it cannot recover the loop. You know what I mean? It's like you've lost some information. You know what I mean?
mm. Yes.
That's like the
Here's
fragment there is then like fractionable or you can concatenate it in sort of like one dimensional symbol sequences, right?
yeah, yeah. Let me. I'm actually going to post this in the general real quick. This is where's the general? Okay, there's general. Wait, no, that's not general. I need to save some time.
General
No one got
reason.
the joke. No one knows the joke about, or like the advertisement, like something general, save some time. I forget it. Never mind.
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Let's see.
But I think I don't know. It seems to me like well, idealism is a form of monism, right? Like, I don't know if you had a point. Like, I'm gonna go straight and attack your view now.
Okay. Well, before we do that, I just wanted to I'm posting this in the chat right now. So this like a torus rotating in on itself. That's probably very something very similar to what like Rosen would consider kind of like an impredicativity of sorts, like of course in a non-spatial sense. But let me put so let me just because this is exactly what I was getting at. I mean, I wrote this several years ago, but it's it seems very much in line with
Oh yes, I've seen you post that before.
yeah. Let me see here. Yeah, so I would say I'm just going to read this for the audience here. So whereas experience, you might conceive it as like being a kind of thing that has impredicativity with it. So whereas experience has its center in itself, matter, by contrast, or you could think of like dead physical things,
Yeah, I
has
see
its
what you.
center out of itself. For matter is exhausted by the reciprocal exclusion and repulsion of its composite parts. All parts of
Mm.
matter exemplify nothing other than flatness, outspreadedness, and side-by-sidedness. Matter is never at home with itself. Matter is neither transparent to itself, nor does it return into itself or
Yeah.
into its parts. It's opaque to itself. Matter is simple in all of its dimensions. The entirety of its character is determined by what lies outside it. Gyrating patterns of physical particles are, therefore, in toto, pervaded by a self-othering, side-by-sidedness, to use like Hegel's terms, i.e., processes that outspread and diffuse themselves across an extended spatio-temporal manifold are what they are only insofar as their unfoldings are repulsions out of themselves, no one of these repulsions either being or having a moment of return, i.e., a differentiation or phase wherein there is an overreaching, an including, or an enveloping of the distinction between itself and its other within itself. That kind of thing about that impredicativity. For any such material happening, regardless of its peculiar kind or character,
I'm sure.
there is
I
neither.
just want to say, I'm sure you can understand what my take on all this is. It's just that this is all basically an assumption of impoverishment, right?
Oh, on the contrary, this is full on Rosen right here.
No, but I'm saying
Yeah,
like,
I was.
like what I was about to say in attack of your view. I was saying it seems to me like you're taking the whole like Berkeleyan approach, which is like, oh well, matter is too impoverished, right?
By matter here, I'm speaking of the bare abstraction. So I'm not
Yeah,
saying that matter doesn't
and but that's
exist.
like, you know,
I'm saying that
that's like
it's
elevating formalism to ontology.
by matter here. I just mean like the world in that moment of uh, it's being outside of itself. For instance, it's not that I'm saying like okay, matter is on the one side and experience is on the other side. What
And
we
it's like because
notice of
it seems like it's already like assuming like a system environment dualism that Rosen really talks about in life itself, like how, that comes from like the Newtonian formalism, where it's like system is equated with states, and like environment is equated with forces, and these forces are like the environment is supposed to be the source of entailment, but it's unentailed, right? These forces are unexplainable, right? They just they're just magic basically that comes in, you know. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? Like, oh, like they're just like uh they're entirely like determined by like the environment, you know what I mean? This unmoved mover basically.
not exactly, but let me do this.
But
So
I
I
again, like I would reject that assumption outright, you know what I mean? Like completely outright.
well, I would reject also the assumption that there's a dualism between matter and experience.
Yeah, of course,
Full
of course.
stop.
Full stop. Yeah, of course. But
Yeah.
like that doesn't get you to monism, because monism is a derivative of some dualism. But I'll get into that. I'll let you
What do
finish.
you mean by monism though? That's important here
Yes.
because monism for me is is not like a monism of like substance.
Mhm.
Rather,
I know. I'm saying
uh, it's a unified theory. So there's no dual worlds.
yeah,
There's
I
only
don't agree
one
there.
world,
I
and
would say that
it's
monism is a derivative of some dualism, right? I would say that that's because whenever you're like considering any one like side of the dualism, you necessarily have to treat the other side as unreal, right? Because it's like a totally separate universe. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I could see that.
So
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, like there's the monism. You know what I mean? Right there. That's exactly how how I think monism comes about. Right? But like I'm neither a monist nor a dualist. Like that's a false dichotomy in my view. You know?
So would you say that you're just a? I mean, well, it's not even a good way to. Uh, it's a holist, I guess. That's probably a better way to put it. A holist in this.
Systemism, right?
So there is only the system, I guess. So there's
No,
the
there's
system.
there's only basically like the universe is not a system itself. You know, the universe is just the continuity among systems, right? Such that they're all units of some conserved totality.
But the totality, though, is a. Would you say that the totality is a um,
It's not
fundamental?
homogeneous. It, no, I wouldn't.
So
I
there's
wouldn't say
the.
unity is fundamental because remember,
So I said
the
the
first and
totality.
second law are mutually entailed, right? You don't have symmetry without asymmetry. Like say we start with like harmony and symmetry, perfect symmetry, like a one-dimensional manifold, right? It can't break its own symmetry. You know what I mean? It like a symmetry exhausts itself in its symmetry, right? It can't sort of just spontaneously like you need some asymmetry to be like injected in to break the symmetry, right? But the first law of universal time translation symmetry is unbreakable, right? But the universe never was and never will be homogeneous, right? And it's like it's for the same reason that like no one way of traversing the loop exhausts the loop, right? But to basically for the loop to be finite, the finitude of the loop itself, right? Both, right? It requires you to keep going. It requires asymmetry, difference, right? So it's one. They're mutually entailed, right? Like unity and diversity, or
Yeah,
multiplicity,
yeah. I mean,
right?
I'm full on with that. And
Yeah.
here's
Well, I don't say one is more fundamental than the other, but I also do not say like one is like derivable from the other or translatable into the other, right? They have their distinct roles, but they're mutually supportive, right? Like X and Y are
sure,
not
yeah,
identical. You know, they're not
yeah,
reducible to one another.
yeah. But I mean, I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah,
And now
it's so like but that's like there's no. It's not monism. You know, it's like more of a pluralism. You know,
I would say that it's a holism if you don't want to call it a monism, but a holism where the either side is a mere abstraction from the whole.
I
You
would not
can't.
say that. I
So
would
you
not say
wouldn't
it's
say
a
that in
mere
the case of like,
abstraction.
okay, A and B, they're explained in terms of each other. They can't be
They're
understood apart
referring
from
to
one
the whole.
another.
Basically, when I'm saying X is X in terms of Y, describing X in
Yeah,
terms of Y, I'm saying that
and
X
Y in terms of
refers to
X.
the larger system.
So X refers to,
The
if you want to think of brackets
the
here, X,
conserved totality of X plus Y. You know,
and so Y then refers to
the
bracket in
conserved
within
totality.
brackets here Y dash X,
Yeah.
and is Y dash X or X dash Y uh, either
They're
identical to
they're not
X
identical to
or
each other.
Y, right? Now is X dash Y uh, it seems that X dash Y is that upon which and that without which X would not exist, right? Because if you get rid of X plus or X dash Y, you're going to get rid of X.
Right. Yeah.
And if you get rid of X dash Y, you're going to get rid of Y.
Right.
So,
But again, it's
and
not
again,
reducible to it, right?
but yeah, it's not reducible to, or Y is not, uh, like you,
Because
if you were to try to
neither one exhausts the
substitute
loop. Neither one exhausts the loop.
exhausts, yeah, right, yeah, neither X nor Y exhausts X dash Y. So I would say that X dash Y in that case
Whether it
is
would be x dash y
or
dash x, right? That would be the loop.
that's what I said. Yeah. I mean, so imagine that imagine that it's I mean, by x dash y here, I mean this, if you want to think of it like as a cyclical kind of
Well,
relation, or whatever you want
yes,
to call
that's
it.
right, and it's like that's why I think it like embodies both the first law and the second law, right? Because it's like a sort of irreversible flow to the conservation, right?
Let
You can
me
go from x
see.
to y, but then going from x to y, like it basically you how do you get to x? You know what I mean? It presupposes going to x. You've gone to x. You know what I mean? There's no basically what the first law is also like. There's another way of saying the first law is that uh going going is the same from coming. It's identical.
Yes,
Going is the same as coming, right?
yes, exactly. And coming is the same as going.
Yes, exactly.
And
So x
that's
going
why.
x to y also entails going from y to x, and so that it requires both. You know, x going to y requires a y going to x, and y going to x requires x going to y.
Right, exactly. So I'm in complete agreement with that. And I actually have. Let me here. See here. Where's the?
And so basically, the essential semantic component becomes like the second law aspect. You know what I mean? No,
Let
second
me.
law, irreversibility, asymmetry.
1 second. I'm just trying to find here.
And so that really that really illustrates well how it's like you have both finitude, like the loop is finite, right? It's a finite symmetry. It's a loop. And then you also have irreversibility, right? But mutually entail. No one reducible to the other, right?
Yeah. You can't. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm just trying to find here. Where's this? I wrote something that is exactly, I think, a better actually illustration of what I'm getting at, and it's similar. It's very close to what. Here we go. Here we go. This is better. Hmm. Okay. 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 Here we go. Um. Here we go. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. So this is back from November of 2025. Let
And
me just
like if
post
you're
this.
not aware, like you're not familiar, like this is like why I mean like ecological psychologists, we always talk about how we're describing the environment in terms of the organism, then we're describing the organism in terms of the
In terms of
environment.
its relation. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll notice uh, in one of these. I just posted in the general here. See, November 12th. So, like for instance, you'll notice in one of the diagrams that I make here, you have this differentiation out of self and differentiation into self through the same exact process, just viewed in two. One is kind of just concentrating on one area of the same one of the same process, in the same way that a torus that's rotating into itself, that very motion, that very rotation into self, is simultaneously no different from its own rotating out of itself.
Right.
Uh,
They're not fractionable from each other. You know what I
yes,
mean?
exactly. Yeah,
Like how
they can't
I
be
don't know if you got to
separated.
the point in Essays on Life itself where he talks about how like the wing, right? Like the wing of a bird, right? And like the
Mhm.
wing of an airplane, or like the airfoil and like the wing. I forget what it is. Like there's like the airfoil and like something else. But the bird's wing, right? You cannot fractionate the functions, right? Those two functions from the like into different parts. You get what I'm saying?
No.
And
Yeah.
but a plane does. Like you plane fractionates it into different two different parts, right?
Mhm. Perfect. This is actually kind of interesting because it's very similar to what you were just saying here. So on November 27th, 2025, I wrote, "We have hitherto been examining the structure of experience as it
You
relates to
could
the
probably control you could probably control F in essays on life itself for like airfoil.
Oh
and
yeah,
find
yeah. I remember coming across it earlier today. Let's see. So we have hitherto. So this is in general. We have
I'm
hitherto been
sorry.
examining the structure of experience as it relates to the outspreadedness and expansiveness, i.e., the self-externality, which is a common Hegelian idiom, of the spatial order and its furniture, its bodily occupants, as well as the temporal order to a lesser extent. This is a subject which has been approached phenomenologically, not through a mere dogmatic attempt to conform to the life of concrete experience to the lifelessness of an abstract, fragmentary, and undeveloped theory. I have attempted to illustrate the peculiar and sui generis nature of the structure of experience, contrasting it with the frozen cross sections of itself, i.e.,
So, there's
object.
a lot of philosophies in this, bro. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
So, like subject and object, like Rosen talks about this kind of thing, how like neither is, as well as Turvey too, subject and object, they can't be reduced to each other.
Yeah,
But let me,
we refer to the larger system for their
right,
distinct character.
exactly, and watch exactly this. Um, neither of which, i.e., neither subject or object, is a thing in its own right, capable of being uh, isolated without having to introduce passage and transition into it, i.e., a transition from the other into itself. You'll notice right there. Now, I have been ruminating on whether it might be more fruitful to start by treating the world in its unity rather than experience in its unity as being that which actuates and articulates itself by, to use a spatial metaphor that I employ in describing the structure of experience, rotating itself out of itself through its
Yeah,
rotating itself into itself.
yeah, it's
Note the
cyclic.
fact that
It's cyclic.
note that the apparent duality of contrasting motions, i.e., an outward dispersal and an inward concentration, are in fact identical. They, in quotes, are the
Right.
differentia which give filling and content. You might think of like semantics here, filling and content to a singular and self-same movement.
Like
This movement,
intentionality with an S, right?
yeah, being the unity of the world itself. Thus, it is not strictly speaking correct to say that there is a passage from an outward dispersal towards an inward concentration. Indeed, not only does passage imply that the outward dispersal is earlier than the inward concentration, and the inward concentration
I think
later
I
than
can
the outward
say exactly
dispersal.
what you're saying in much simpler terms,
Exactly.
right? There's
Yeah,
like
probably.
there's no inside without outside, right? Without
Right,
reference to
right.
the
And
outside.
it's not even,
Yeah.
and the passage is not even strictly speaking, a passage, because it's just one and the same thing almost. And just to continue, but it also implies that when the former comes about, the latter passes away, which is not the case. In a strict sense, one might say that the world and its unity disperses itself and comes to possess itself in this very act of self-dispersion. The world and its unity, through its inward concentration of itself simultaneously and in that singular and self-same act, reaches around its outward dispersal of itself, envelops it, and pulls itself not only through itself but also into unity with itself. So
This is where maybe
this
I
is
would
very Hegelian.
disagree in saying like the universe is acting, the universe is doing this, the universe is da da da, right? Because I think the concept of universe refers to just what the first law refers to. In the first law, if we just take the first law, like with respect to the first law, as far as the first law is concerned, nothing changes, right? Nothing, like it remains the same, you know. Like the energy, right, is not what's driving any change. It's entropy. We need the second law. Second law terms are like the processual terms. You know what I mean? And like it gives you change, difference, asymmetry, right? And you don't want to reduce one to the other, right?
Right, right.
So I like to be very careful about that, right?
I understand. So now, for me, so when I speak of like the world here, by that I really
Because I wouldn't say the universe is a system because like the universe, it doesn't have an environment, right?
I see. So you say that condition for a system. So a system only makes sense in the context of a larger system or something
Yeah.
contrasting. Like it makes sense
Well,
only in terms of an
it's
environment.
inclusive of its environment, its context and
I see.
constraint, the system
I see.
description.
And so I see. So a system, on your view, it is inclusive of its environment, but if the universe was inclusive of its environment, that
Well,
would presuppose
basically,
that there
think
was a higher universe.
thermodynamics, right? Like the system is like basically trying to. There's like a thermodynamic potential, right? This field, there's a field potential, right? That's what this whole like basically distinction is, right, between the boundaries of the system and the environment, right? So it's like it's trying to equilibrate, right, with the environment, right? But the universe, that's like that's why I say like the universe is finite, right? But it's open ended. There's no boundary being like there's no boundary between inside and outside the universe, right? There's no outside or environment that the universe is equilibrating with or could ever equilibrate with or be equilibrated with, right? That's why it's not like there's never going to be a homogeneous universe, or there never was a homogeneous universe. You know what I mean? Because like I say that as well as a universe of only one thing is a contradiction in terms, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like I combine that basically to say like, well, energy, right? There's a well, the second law, it tells us there's a flow to the conservation, right? That's what it's telling us. But it's like it's not flowing outside the universe, right? It's not there's no sink outside the universe uh to pump this energy into. You know what I mean? So it's just like
Hmm.
endlessly differentiating itself. You know what I mean?
So you would say that it is differentiating itself, or no?
Yeah. Like there's
I
never
see.
been like there's always going to be variable forms of energy. Like you can only have conservation, right? Like if you look at one side of like the transformation, like from ice to water, right?
Yeah.
You're just gonna see the ice disappears, and then like the energy disappeared. Where'd it go? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you gotta look at the both the ice and the water, right? And you see, well, look, it's all right here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It didn't go anywhere. Well, it didn't disappear. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
that's how we know it stays the same. The total energy remains invariant, right?
Let's see here.
I don't know if you grasped the point I
No,
was trying
no,
to.
no. It's. I'm just kind of. Yeah.
You
I
see,
really don't know
like
why.
at first you're like skeptical about like thermodynamics, like
Well, I
using
mean,
it
like
for like
I'm still
ontology
kind of like
stuff.
skeptic. Well, like I'm skeptical of the like not skeptical, I'll say, but I'm like unsure about the thermodynamic stuff per se. But I mean, I think no, I mean I mean I think we agree on a lot of stuff, but we're approaching
Yeah,
it from very 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 different perspectives. And I'm kind of unsure, Stu. Like
I'm
I'm
like
puzzled.
approaching it from like I'm like a commitment to realism. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
commitment to realism as like commitment to scientific realism. You know, like the possibility of science. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. For me, I'm like, yeah, fuck science. For me, no, yeah. For me, I'm coming at it from a much
And that's just like
more
I can't have that sort of apathy towards curiosity, bro. I just can't. You know?
oh please, I'm very I love curious. I think that science that's the problem. They destroy things. They take out the life and the
Oh
spirit of
well,
things.
that's the thing, right? Like this whole view, right? Remember I was talking about natural units, natural measurement, right?
Mm,
It's basically like living systems, right? This is Rosen's whole view that biology informs physics, right? Or should inform physics, right? Or like embodies the more general laws than contemporary physics, right?
mm.
It's
No,
basically
yeah.
living
I'm in
systems.
complete agreement with that. I mean,
Living
yeah. I mean,
systems provide us like a natural classroom for studying
what
systems
the
without
fuck?
having to take them apart.
What the fuck is going on?
Sorry, am I cutting out?
No. What the hell?
Did you grasp that? That's a quote from Rosen's daughter's paper here. Uh,
Are they searching for someone? What the fuck?
Are you like
Sorry.
talking about? Sorry.
Yo, the police are
There's
after
like,
him, bro.
yeah, they're coming after me for my Hegelianism. What the
Dude, the
fuck?
anti-Hegel
In DC
police.
text, here's Judith Rosen's daughter. Oh, fuck, sorry. But I love this quote from her. She basically says that uh living systems, like, they're like a natural classroom for studying systems without taking them apart, without destroying them, right? And remember what I said, like the standard of explanation in sciences. It's the laws of thermodynamics. It's the whole, like, we have no unentailed terms. You know what I mean? And
Hang on one
I can
second.
countercite that.
1 second. I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Hang on 1 second. There's like people with flashlights. What the fudge? Maybe it was because the tornado kind of thing in the storm. I'm just wait a second. Sorry about this. It's just they're leaving. Thankfully. Yeah, I just like note like I'm like right outside of the
So
window right now, and it's
I
like
don't know if you heard what I said.
yeah, no, I was, yeah.
Yes,
Thermodynamics, all that stuff, good stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
living systems are like a natural classroom for studying systems without having to take them apart and destroy them, right?
yeah.
And remember all that stuff I was talking about, like fractal analysis, right?
Alas, yes. Oh, and by the way, speaking of fractal analysis, so I did look into that. So yes, I was when we speak of like the number of dimensions of something as being like
Mm.
I was like, what? Like it only makes sense to say that like, the number of dimensions is an integer. Well, that yes, in the case of topological dimensions, yes. But so yeah, that's correct. But yeah, so like the case of like one of those triangles that's like a fractal, right? So in that case, yes, it is. Does have like yeah, it's
Yeah, I
in that
pinged
case
you.
there's an integer.
I pinged you
But
to this because it's like this is why Turvey starts lectures of perception like this. I don't know if you read lecture one, this part here where he talks about partial versus total systems, right? There's this whole
tell
thing
me yes,
from
yes.
Ashby. You know the systems theorist Ashby,
I've heard the
Ross
name.
Ashby, right? He has this whole like argument, right, about how like to the extent some like some of the like relevant factors are like unobservable, right, or hidden or unobserved, right?
Mhm.
There, the system will look like it evokes like magic, right? Like
From the
say like
standpoint of the physicist or
yeah,
whatever it might be.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, well, like yeah, the paradigmatic case is the magician's trick, right? The whole it's not the whole thing is not like observed, so it looks like it's magic, right? I mean, he's hiding some
but
variables
from a
from.
higher standpoint, yeah, exactly. If you include those other
Yes,
variables, then
the
you
more
realize that
inclusive system. Yes,
yeah,
then you realize, right, that it's intelligible, right,
yeah,
by reference
that
to
ex-
laws.
exactly, yeah. And that reminds me, believe it or not, with I had some debates a couple of years back with these they're called illusionists. They believe that
Mhm.
consciousness is, or well, one might say like phenomenal consciousness. So like the sensory qualities of things that we might say, like so for instance, like the redness of a rose, and the
Mhm.
like that you actually experience. These things are illusory.
Well, I wouldn't say we experience qualities. You know, we're not experiencing. Like again, yeah, we
No, no,
don't.
no, 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 no.
Person's view is like we don't
Yeah, yeah. Forget
differentiate
Gibson.
we don't
Forget Gibson
differentiate
right now.
shape
I'm not.
from color,
Yeah.
right? Just like clear,
Yep.
just really quick, we don't differentiate shape from color. We differentiate a thing's shape from another thing's shape, right?
Right. Right. Yes. A quality or a characteristic is always that of something. There's no such thing as a color patch
Mhm.
that
Right.
exists. It's always the rose's redness or
Yes.
the bulletin board's squareness.
Affordances are primary. They're what is perceived.
Sure. Yes. Whenever you don't perceive adjectives, you perceive something as
Affordances.
qualified in such a way, or a
Yeah.
substantive as having such and
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
properties. Yeah. Yeah.
A property. Thing.
When I spoke of the we experience the quality of something. Like so, we experience as something like a
Mhm.
rose or a this
Yeah.
or a that as having characteristics. Without which, I
Right.
mean,
Ew, what the hell's wrong with my internet? Bro, fuck this shit. Bro, come on, man. Ain't got time for this, bro. Bro, come on, bro. Bro, come on. Stop playing games, bro. Stop fucking playing games with me, bro. Work.
Again, perception is not a propositional making activity, right? We're not doing judgments in
Yeah, I
perception.
completely disagree with that. I
You-
completely disagree with that.
like, well, yeah, but this is very important for ecopsych. I mean, perception is a state of affairs, right? It's not something that's
Wait a
true or
second.
false, right?
So is this state of affairs, does it have a structure? Is the
Yeah.
cat on the mat?
Mhm.
Okay, in that very state of affairs, it's already structured in such a way that reflects perfectly a judgment. The cat is on the
But
map.
it's not a judgment.
It's
It
not a
can you
judgment,
can
but it is structured
we don't
such
we
that it
don't form
is.
judgments to perceive. It's
When
not a
you say
proposition making activity. Perception.
it's not a making it, it's like it's not a purpose. Well, it is the. I would say that it is not a proposition making activity, but it is a judging activity. I mean, what distinguishes a person from when they are, for instance, if they
Well, if
uh,
you're talking about judging as like I was just I thought you were talking about judging as like, you know, in propositions.
oh
Like
yeah,
how
yeah, I get.
propositions are judgments. You know what I mean?
Like when it comes to perception, I would say that it's not something like, okay, all S is P or whatever it is. It's not like, okay, like it's not anything like that. It's rather something that's structured in such a way that it has there's a core about it that is affirmed of. You're affirming something or something. You're saying or you're taking something to be a state of affairs. It's a way. It's an approach. It's not something that's purely
It's
receptive.
well,
There's an activity going on. There's a
yes. There's an activity going on, but what is that activity like? Is it epistemically laden processes, right? This
well, it
pickup.
has to be if
No, 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 no.
unless it's
What
completely.
I mean by that is like mediational. You know what I mean? Epistemic, like it epistemically mediates the object, right?
In a sense, again, when it comes to like a medium or like something that mediates the
I'm saying
our
it's not.
experience.
There's no producing or constructive role of these processes, right? For creating the information or processing the information, right? To yield knowledge of the object, right? To yield perception of the object. The
So it's not like
structure is
okay,
out
we
there.
need to construct. It's so you're saying that to construct like let's say a fishing pole in order to kind of drag the object into ourselves,
Right.
so to speak.
We just have to reel it in,
Yeah,
you
I would
know?
agree.
You just gotta
But I think you would even say that there is no reeling, so to speak. There can't be a reeling because that itself would depend
right.
upon, or well, you're not even well, let me put it
It's
this way: we're not conscious of the reeling. That's not something that
what
we
you're sort
need
of
to
doing
depend.
is you're basically information about X is not X, right? But it's specific to X. It doesn't have to be like a copy of X or a representation of X, right? It's specific to it by the physics of it, right? And I mean, there's a lot that goes into this in ecological physics and about the physical basis of specificational information, but I won't get into that.
Yeah.
But just like, and so basically, if Y is specific to X, right, then to detect Y is to perceive X, right? Like it's transparent, right? Like a
I could have a thing in front of my face and not perceive it at all, but all that
you know
information
whether
is going
it's like
into my.
yes, well, it's not again, it's not like you could be like bathed in light, your eyeballs could be bathed in light, but the information is not the energy as such, not the light as such, but the structure, right? So it's like in Gansfield experiments, you know how they
Yeah, no,
basically
ping pong balls over the eyes. Yeah.
yeah, they diffuse the light, so it's sort of like it's there's no structure, right? It's totally homogeneous, right? You don't basically you don't see whatever the color of the light is, you see nothing. You know what I mean?
It's well, I mean, you have a there's an eigengray of sorts. That's what you're intuitive. I don't want to say intuiting because that's like there's because
Also,
that might give you
this
the
is the
wrong
example.
impression.
Like basically, only structured light can be focused, right? Unstructured light cannot be
Sure,
focused. You know,
sure,
and that's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and that's what perceiving basically is like. You're just like for your backgrounding invariance, like to foreground the relevant like the very relevant thing, like the affordance, you know, on the action relevant dimensions, right? So it's like these invariants are across the whole like activity, the whole perception action, right? And you're sort of just like surfing on them. You know what I mean? You're just like letting them like take you, you know? Like
Hmm.
the whole like to complete the whole event. right? Because they
Would you
exist
say that?
across the whole event, right? The invariants.
Hmm.
That's what they like. Gibson's information is like the invariants here. I'm sure you've seen like a bunch of philosophers talk all about like foregrounding and backgrounding.
Oh
You know,
yes, of course. Yeah.
right?
Merleau-Ponty, all of them. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, like I would say that our normal everyday perception, it always has that gestalt character of a foreground background kind of thing. There's a
Right.
yeah, there's a
And it's basically like there's to really understand this. I think you got to look at the like ecological physics, the like physical basis of it. Right.
mm.
It's really important stuff. It's like if I were to
I
just
recommend you read
summarize
The
it.
Nature of Thought by Brand Blanchard. That's what I do.
Oh, Brand Blanchard.
Yeah, yeah. Who was actually corresponded with Rand a little bit.
Yeah, I know about Brand Blanchard.
Yeah, but he's
But
the first
it,
chapter of The Nature of Thought goes into exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the nature of perceptual
sorry, okay. I keep trying to correct you, but you're talking about the illusionist or whatever. So sorry, bro.
who
The illusionist or whatever you were talking about, right? You were talking about their view, right? And I keep like trying to correct you.
oh yeah, I was talking about like they maintain that they hold to a radical kind of
Phenomenalism, right?
uh what's that?
You said phenomenalism.
The opposite.
Oh,
It's incredibly kind of difficult to grasp, but they
so
would
like
say
it's
that
like kind of like dialectic materialist or whatever.
even like yeah, even more cringe than this because because these kinds of people, these illusionists, they maintain that all of our judgments. So they hold to a form of okay a judgment theory of perception, but in the
Mhm.
worst possible way
Like
because they
they're
maintain that all of our judgments about physical objects as
they're like sophists. Is
having
what you're saying?
qualities. So, like you would say that a thing has the quality of redness, and that's or it has a
I
sweetness
would say
and a
it's
light.
identified. It's identified with its,
It's a
properties.
mode. It's a like for example,
Like,
the redness of an object is a modification of the object in relation
like
to other things.
like there's
You
this thing
can't
that Turvey
separate it.
talks about, right? Like, there's this sort of dualism between propertyless things and thingless properties. But, like, we take the like eschewment view, like this eschewing this is like there's only propertied things, and it's like
Yeah. I mean, I'm agreeing with that. There's no
things
bare.
things are identified with their properties, and properties are identified with things they are of, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
like one in
But
terms
yeah.
of the other, like an imperative loop.
Yep, no worries. And I'm that's totally fine. I'm talking about so like for instance the redness of that is actually there when you're perceiving a rose, right? There's redness. There's it's very there's something that's very different
Well, I don't know if you would
to
call
what's
it
going
ready.
on when I'm talking about just the why do you call a rose red? Well, because
Right.
there's
Because
something
it's a
there
division.
that's not there when I'm seeing a lily. And if someone was blind, they wouldn't be
Well,
able to appreciate it.
I would say it's just like sort of the ranges of the colors are like divisions of like they're just spectral distributions, right?
But there's the thing is though that there's the spectral distribution of where the wavelengths of light though and the actual the intrinsic quality. So like for instance, when you think about the parts of space, right? They are if you take it in a purely like uh, if you have a color. Well, let me do it this way. All of the colors in a color palette are
Okay, I think we're
each
never
have
gonna
their
get
own.
we're never gonna get
Yeah.
anywhere if I keep trying to correct you. Like, no,
Yeah.
ecopsych
Well,
ecopsych doesn't fucking say color like wavelength is the basis of color perception.
Yeah, because
But
when you mentioned what did you say? Like what did you say about spectrum or something like that? What did you say?
spectral yeah, spectral distribution like it's a little bit more than that. Hold up. I just like I forgot.
Yeah, no worries. So when you started talking about the spectrum, that's when I was like, oh god, now I'm gonna have to talk about this. Yeah. So okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Yeah.
Never mind that. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, hello?
Oh, yep. Hello. Sorry. I thought you were doing something.
No, I was
Um.
just saying never mind. Yeah, I was agreeing.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. But they would say that we all of our judgments and well, let me not even talk about judgment. All of our perceptual experiences are illusory.
Mhm.
They misrepresent. So they would say that they misrepresent the way in which things actually are. You can think of it that way.
They
That's what an
hold a
illusion is called.
dualism, an incommensurability between the object of reference and the object of experience, basically.
Basically, yeah. It's completely incoherent. And this is a result of that kind of thing about magic that you were talking about earlier. How when someone like if they don't take into account all the variables, things are going to be like magic. They're going to be like, oh. And there's a perfect meme that
Yeah.
someone made in a comment section that exactly talks about
Yeah, I mean, if
that
you
exactly goes into what you were saying. Let me actually just pull it up right here because
okay,
it's hilarious. Um, Let me see here. Yeah, you can keep talking in the meantime, but I think we're right
yeah,
on the
so
same path here.
yeah, so the example Turvey gives in lecture one, right? It's like when you just have like the sun earth system or the sun earth water system, right? Or just like the moon
Mhm.
earth water system. I forget which one it is. When you just have that, right? You can't like it's not inclusive enough to basically
Right.
embody the laws that like account for the semi-diurnal periodic tides and like something else I forget. Like the tides, right? How the tides work, right? And
Mhm.
so like the ancients, right? They would attribute it to like a powerful, all-powerful God, right? There's just like the breath of a powerful God, right?
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? But like when
Yeah.
we enlarge our system, right? So that's inclusive of the laws, right? We have the sun, moon, earth, water system. Then we can explain the
Mhm.
semi-diurnal periodic tides and stuff like that.
There we go. Okay, that's one meme, but let me okay.
And that's
So
also so that's like when you extend that to perception action. I mean the the charge, right? The charge for the scientist, right? For in explaining perception action is very clear, right?
mhm. Let me
You,
see
you know what I mean?
here. Yes. Let me see. Where
And
is
it's
it?
basically like they say like you gotta it's just like you have to like enlarge your system, right? That such that energy is not lost or gained, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't talk about the energy being lost or gained really, but no, when it comes to the enlargement of a system, I would agree with that. Um, Let me see here. Let me find
And
this. Where
so
is
like
it?
if basically it looks like it's impoverished information, the informational basis of perception is impoverished, we need to like permit ourselves a coarser grained description until necessary specificity is realized. That's like the
Sure.
information, right? The information variables, Gibson's sense of information. That's like the explanatory like meat and potatoes of like the program of ecological psychology, right? So
Mhm.
it's all about finding the right information variables, right?
Sure. Let's see. Where is it? Found it. Perfect. Okay, good. Let me
There's a lot that goes
uh
into this. How like go like the system has its own like the organism has its own onboard metabolic source of like potentials or forces, right? So it competes with the forces of the environment, such that it balances out, such that the environment, right, like can be given a description where the mass term, right, the mass dimension is suppressed, right? So it's just in purely geometric, spectral, and kinematic terms, right? Spatial temporal and spatial plus temporal, right?
Mm.
And so it's like how, you know, like a moving room, right, where it's just like dangling from a rope, the four
Mhm.
walls around you, it's not connected to the floor, right?
Mhm.
What they did, this is called a Lee room. It's in lectures on perception as well. But basically they can move this room, right? Like it's like seamless with the floor, so you can't really tell that it's moving, you know. But like they move it, they can move it slightly, right? And so
Mm.
like let me clarify this first. Like your postural like stability, right? How you're able to stand up right now. Like if you try and stand as perfectly still as possible,
Mm.
you'll notice that you actually start to lose your balance. You have to actually catch your balance, right? It's because it's like it's the very variability, like the postural sway through which you're
Mm.
able to keep yourself stable. There's a lot of studies on this, by the way, in ecopsych, postural sway and postural stability and postural control and all that, right? But basically, you're
I mean,
like
oh my god, I can just
your
imagine it. That would be really fucked up. Oh my
your
god.
your behavior is lawfully like linked to the surface layout, the invariance, right?
Yeah.
And so if we move this moving room forward, we can actually
The
measure that
walls, that is. Yeah.
yeah, the walls. We can actually measure that you'll like you won't even notice it. Like we can do it so minuscule that like it's unnoticeable to you, but like we can measure that you're actually starting to lean forward, right? And also if you like just like move it really fast, you just fucking fall. You know, there's so much cool stuff like this, like an optical tunnel where they mess with optical flow and like
Mm.
you look down it and you start thinking like you're spinning in circles, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like thinking about this right now. I'd
But
throw
again,
up. That's what would happen.
the point is, right? The point is that well, there's no force. The wall is not uh exerting a force on you, right?
Right?
You know what I mean? Like you're not touching it, right?
Right.
It's not
It's
pushing you,
not pushing you. But nevertheless,
right?
you'll fall or have a tendency
Right,
to fall.
right. So there's forceless constraints. Like the information is considered like mass, like soft forceless constraints where the mass dimension is suppressed, right? And so that's what
Sure. I mean, like,
like
yeah, you could think of it this way too. I mean, like a look can kill.
yeah,
Just like you could think of it that way too. Like in that case, there's no like mass that's really like, or there's action at a distance, so to speak. In a sense, if you
right,
give
yeah,
someone like
exactly.
a dirty look, it'll like alter a person.
And that's like the basic summary. That's the basic summary of like the basic point of like the ecological physics account of information, right?
Hmm.
It's basically just like these patterns of like low energy distributions relative to the sort of higher energy distribution in of the organism and stuff, like it's more, you know, active and stuff, right?
Hmm.
It's competing with the forces of its environment, right? Such that it's like balanced out. It has its own onboard source of forces, you know,
Hmm.
metabolic potential, right? And there's a lot that goes into this. There's a whole book on it by Turvey, by the way. So I'll link
Hmm.
that.
Very cool. I posted the memes in the general chat. One of
Okay.
them. It's like it's exactly what you were talking about with the magic and the lack of variables. It's like you're gonna be shocked if you see like consciousness exists if you're focusing solely on physical variables and things like that. They're
Yeah.
purely yeah. The
Well,
mystery of consciousness is so offensive to materialists, they actually resort to labeling it a kind of magic.
yeah. But we're really focused on basically finding the physics and mathematics appropriate to the facts of psychology that account for the facts of psychology, rather
Hmm.
than treating the facts of psychology
It's derivative.
like as illusory, as belying
Yeah.
some like
Hmm.
fundamental reality, right?
Yeah.
But that fundamental reality is like, again, it's an extremely small surrogate universe that there's no life in it, there's no mind in it, there's no consciousness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Why treat it's to suppose that something that is completely so impoverished. I mean, you're never going to get that kind of complexity you're looking for just by an infinite prolongation of impoverishments. In the same way
Yes,
that
there's a
if you have a
great
dozen
connection.
people,
Yeah, keep
if you have
talking,
a
keep
dozen,
talking.
if you have a dozen people in a room, and each of them kind of like, I don't know, has a pricks their finger just slightly. If a dozen people do that, that amount of pain in that room, the amount of that total amount of pain, that's in no way equivalent to uh, the feeling of getting shot. Even though you have a lot of people having small pain, like that little bit of pain there, no matter how many times you multiply that, there's a categorical difference of sorts
Mhm.
between
It's not a difference in degree, it's a difference in kind.
yeah, in kind, yeah. And no matter how many times you have people pricking their finger, that amount of pain is not going to be equivalent to, um, yeah, like you can't compound pain in the same way that you can't get to like infinity by simply adding one with a successor function kind of thing. You can't just be like, okay, well, just plus one, plus one, plus one. You're never going to get to infinity like that. That's not how it works. You can't get to the transfinite numbers like that. Yeah, and transfinite, it's like woke numbers. Yeah,
Okay, dude.
but yeah, never mind. Yeah, again, that kind of was yeah,
No, I understand
stupid
what you're saying.
joke. Yeah, because like
I laugh, man.
transfinite.
I laugh.
Okay.
But
My
here
dude Mark
also
is
Sounds
I wanted to show you
douche to
this.
me.
Do you see how there's a
Book numbers.
does that okay, that linked you back to that linked you to that image, right? Pinged you to that image, right?
Yeah. Let's see here.
You see the connection here with what I said about natural units earlier, about how like we
Ah,
like
a Mobius strip.
no
Is
yeah,
yeah, that's
yes,
exactly how I view things, basically. Wait, actually,
yeah,
before
yeah.
Klein
There's a lot of
on.
stuff. Turvey has stuff about that, like perception, action, like environment, animal, right? It's like
He's stealing from me.
on, yeah. But on the top left, right, is what I wanted to point to, right? I mean, if you read the description of that figure, right?
Is that like an Isaac? What do you call it? Like
It's a,
tensegrity or something like
yeah, yeah,
a tens? Yeah, one of
yeah.
those things.
Turvey describes the medium of haptic perception in terms of like multifractal tensegrity structures, right? And well, there's also other papers taking that where it's saying like like perception, right? All perceptual systems engage or the like multifractal tensegrity medium or whatever of like it's all like there's more to that, but like I'll link that too. But
Hmm.
if you read the description of that, like I think it would be really insightful.
Hmm. Yeah, but for Gibson, it is a mistake to separate the animal from the environment. I'd agree. Animals are continuous with environments. I'd agree. They're reciprocal, logically inseparable, and mutually constraining, just like the surface of a Mobius strip is a continuous surface.
No, not that,
Uh,
not that figure. I was saying the top left figure.
I know, I know. I'm just reading this part that I like.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, but it's the predominant approach to physics. Yeah, yeah. Well, I should
So,
probably be heading out because it is kind of late.
well,
But I'm kind
okay.
of curious though, just to have
I'm just
us
saying
take a little
you
break
see
for a
the point.
second. If anyone else wanted to add anything or anyone wanted to chime in, because we've been talking, the two of us have been talking quite a
I'm
bit.
saying you see the connection to the
Oh
back
yeah,
to that,
I do,
right?
I do. Yeah.
That's we take what the standard here, right? Where we're trying to say like the physics and mathematics appropriate to the facts of psychology, right? Is we just like Gibson was like the standard is going to be like he's going to take the everyday success of perceiving acting as the standard, right? In order to give us an ecological physics and geometry, right? In order to base an ecological physics and geometry off of, right?
Mhm.
That's the important point.
Mhm.
And so I think that kind
Oh,
of like that's like it's kind of like it alleviates your whole issue, I think. You know what I mean? Like Gibson's like reasons for realism, right? His new like his new realism, right? It's a whole it totally
Oh God, not the new
it.
realism, the new realists.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah.
like have you ever heard of E.B. Holt? He
Yes,
was
yes.
a
Well,
yes,
he was
one of the new realists.
E.B.
The
Holt was one of
American Six.
Gibson's advisors when he was going
I
to school.
know. Yeah, he was actually gay.
Oh.
But he yeah, that explains a lot. uh, but
But
yeah,
yeah,
I do know.
Gibson agreed disagreed with them on a lot of things because they were behaviorists, right?
Yeah, but E.B. Holt was basically a behaviorist. A lot of the
Yeah,
American Six. You had R.B. Perry. You had W.T.
yeah, he was a
Martin.
behaviorist.
Yeah,
Right.
and
He was Gibson's advisor, right? But
mhm,
yeah, Gibson is not a behaviorist. He's not like
right,
right.
yeah.
A
But there's a
little.
lot of history. There's a lot of history there. But I just wanted to I like yeah his like new like his reasons for realism, right?
Mm.
Is like totally different, right? Than like I sort of it's like stronger. You know what I mean? It's more like he expanded his view, right? He
Mm.
expanded his view to be more inclusive of the explanans, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
seems to like
I do. Yeah.
your whole issue is that well, science destroys things. It's not inclusive enough. It's like it's all the stuff that we're worried about too. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
but
mean,
like
I take it. Yeah,
as realists, we want to be able to explain these things. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's just like
Read.
something to think about.
Yeah. But here's a good quote from Hegel, actually, that reminded me of the talk about impoverishment and things like that. But it's from his intro to the philosophy of nature. He says, quote, if we examine a flower, for example, our understanding notes its particular qualities. Chemistry dismembers and analyzes it. In this way, we separate color, shape of the leaves, citric acid,
There's also
etheric oil,
ecological
carbon.
chemistry, by the way.
What?
There's
What's
also
that?
like
Oh,
ecological
yes.
chemistry is
Hmm. Oh,
like
yeah.
there's
Yeah.
ecological chemistry, ecological acoustics, ecological
Hmm.
optics, all under
Hmm.
ecological
Hmm.
physics.
Hmm.
Right.
Right. To reiterate, if we examine a flower, for example, our understanding notes its particular qualities. Chemistry dismembers and analyzes it. In this way, we separate color, shape of the leaves, citric acid, etheric oil, carbon, hydrogen, etc. And now we say that the plant consists of all of these. Quote, if you want to describe life and gather its meaning, to drive out its spirit must be your beginning. Then, though fast in your hand lie its parts one by one, the spirit that linked them, alas, is gone. And nature's laboratory is only a name
Yeah.
that the chemist bestows on to hide his own shame, as Goethe says.
And
So,
basically, what we're saying is that the physicists, right, can have colors
mm,
and they can see them too.
mhm, yeah,
we're saying the physicists, the scientists can have colors and can see them too.
yeah. Even though if the physicist, well, when he's in his laboratory, he pretends that he doesn't see any colors or anything that's colored, rather.
Right.
Um, of course, though, the physicist himself is a man at the end of the day, and so he can't uh, forget to take account of that kind of thing.
Right.
So, I should probably, well, actually, before I head out, I'm kind of curious if anyone else wants to chime in. Any thoughts or any kind of questions, or because
Yeah, this kid had mentioned before. I mean, you mentioned illusionism.
yeah.
What were the issues with illusionism?
Well,
That,
there's a lot of them. On the I've written several papers um, responding to Keith Frankish, who is
yeah.
basically the kind of like your
No, yeah,
how should I say this? Like
forefather, I guess, for the view. But
yeah,
I
basically
guess,
like a celebrity.
um, what is your response to? I guess I don't know. Like I usually hear a lot of people who argue against illusionists, and it just bottoms out by saying, "Look, you're just either mistaken because I do have qualia, or
Yeah,
it's just a silly position to hold." But
Well,
I
it's
suspect that there's a
obviously
those
a
bait
aren't
and
good arguments.
self-defeating.
switch,
It's
such
obviously a
that
self-defeating
whenever I
position.
think about qualia, like it's true that I have experiences. I think that it's not the sort of experiences that people who
We
hold
think it
to
has.
phenomenal realism tends to endorse. Like they want to say
You're
it's private, non-physical,
Hmm.
something that's like not communicable,
Mhm.
something that's only privately known, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Yeah.
I see. So now, yeah, you have that qualia thing in your bio, right? If I remember correctly, or something like that. You have it like as your username or something, like qualia
Yeah,
realist or
qualia.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I actually, so let me post. I'm sorry for all the posting. Let me just post this in the general chat real quick because in my critical essays that I have on my blog here, I have an entire section just dedicated to illusionism, as well as providing novel arguments against it. That doesn't have to do anything with, like,
Most arguments I've heard are just like, oh, it's self-defeating, right?
yeah, that's not the case. Well, let me put it this way: most of the arguments that say that it's just self-defeating are either kind of like mistaken in terms of like, okay, they're kind of beg the question at issue,
Yeah.
or
Right. Yeah, I
uh,
understand that because like it's like, but when they don't have impredicativity, right, to ground it, I would say like I see it all the time, right? It's just like they just give another like arbitrary termination, just like, oh, it terminates in reality, right? But like impredicativities are all about like it's like non-terminating loops, right? That's what we need. You know what I'm saying? But it's like it's equivocal with the other person's
Mhm.
view, with their view. You know, it's like it's the same thing. Like
here's a
it's the same grounding, the same amount of evidence, right? Basically.
oh shit.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me
Taking
yeah,
the
yeah,
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
I see it now. It's critical examination of
Here's another
this.
essay.
I'll
Here's
take this
another
account
essay.
for the sake of the argument. It is true that
It's a very long
generally they
paper.
mean that they have expressions
So,
like
so what were
those,
you saying along those lines?
and we can have such.
Like that it begs the question.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm saying. Like, it seems that I can communicate that I have experiences. Now, the point would be is, how do we characterize that experience? And I
Mhm.
just don't think that the experiences are characterized in this way that people who believe in realism tend to make it out to be. Okay. Okay, that's first thing. You said implies some in case it doesn't need it itself. Things a representation of itself. Lines reasoning is that so if a particular is not having the particular
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
okay,
know.
that's
I
true.
wanna. Okay.
Okay, so the thing you have an issue is two. Okay, so can exist without needing to. Then there
Oh
can
shit!
exist.
What the fuck was that?
You good, bro? G?
I heard a fucking noise, dude.
Okay,
That's good.
I'm not sure what the issue of premise 2 is.
They're here to black bag me,
It's
bro.
the movement from the antecedent to the consequent in premise two. And I explain. The entirety of the illusionist project, it all relies upon a form of representationalism. If they want
Yeah.
to be like, they want to make it
Mm.
as
Oh,
plausible as possible.
I th-
And
does
so
it
they're
does it encounter the paradox of mechanical reason, like Hogland's paradox of mechanical reason? Like Hume encountered it, right? Because I mean, he couldn't ever get mind, right? It's just like uh mechanical like
uh,
motions, you know.
it's quite different actually. Let me just say this: the entirety of the illusionist project rests upon the following uh, uh, premise, or the following hypothesis, rather, because it's not even capable of being proved.
Hmm.
It's this quote: there can exist representations of particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities. That's in quotes. So the quote representations of particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities, end quote, that not only do not have the particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities they represent, but are also themselves totally devoid of determinate or determinable sensory qualities of any determinable kind. Now, this position here, this premise, must, in order for the illusionist project to get off the ground, it must be defended in some way, because it's not obvious that this is true. Moreover, it can't be defended by either appealing to intuitions, as the illusionist does not like to do, or claims not to like to do. The question then comes down to empirical evidence. What evidence is there for such a premise?
So I mean, part of it is that as it seems that maybe the people might be asking an empirical question. We're asking then, it's like, what sort of things that you were making predictions about that we expect under value realism that wouldn't be something that illusionists can account or explain. And I mean, I'm not sure what predictions that the realist is making that we have evidence for that is consistent with the view of realism. It seems more like all the things that we want to say that are true of realism is also true of illusionism. Just the fact that, maybe there aren't the particular qualities that realists tend to make up when they talk about experiences in the way that they want to talk about it. So I just maybe in that sense, I'm saying that maybe they don't have any evidence for their view. Something that can't be accounted for. Sorry, I'll make it like a paraphrase it like this. So.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. So, I guess the charge here is that it's not clear to me that if we assume that it is an empirical question, there's any empirical support for the realist understanding of experiences.
I see.
There might be evidence for the things that may be surrounding it, but that's just evidence that also illusionists can consider and be consistent with. But that's about it.
But here's the key, though. In Keith Frankish's own defense, so here's the inconsistency. He himself begins his whole thing by saying, no, the things as they appear to us, as they are given to us in experience, they are given to us as being of such and such a sort, or of such and such a kind, that they have these characteristics and qualities and the like. They actually have. Or here's the thing too, Frankish often flips between treating like sensory qualities as like features of experience, which I don't like to do. He does that sometimes, but then he also sometimes speaks of these kinds of things as being actual like features, or the filling or the stuffing, one might say, of like things in the world that we're experiencing. Now, just to state something real quick, it's important to point out that all of the kinds of instances of representation that Frankish uses to support that premise that I said earlier, all of those, all of the examples that I give in the beginning. So, for instance, here's an example of one, quote, a representation of a sensory quality needn't be qualitative, just as the word red needn't be red. He goes on, representations needn't possess the properties they represent. A representation of redness needn't be red, and a representation of phenomenal redness needn't be phenomenally red. Quote, it implies some representation of the illusory thing, sensory qualities in this case, but that representation needn't itself have the properties of the illusory thing. A representation of sensory qualities needn't itself have sensory qualities. Now that's something else. A representation of F needn't itself be F. A representation of a square needn't be a square. A representation of worldly green needn't be green. and if representation of phenomenal green needn't be phenomenally green. Well, note the fact that he goes on to say too, representations needn't possess the properties they represent. Representations of redness needn't be red, and representations of sensory qualities needn't have sensory qualities. Well, where is his evidence for that? That latter claim. Representations of sensory qualities needn't have sensory qualities, because Frankish himself admits that the world as we perceive it already, before our theoretical abstractions and doing all that kind of stuff, it first strikes us as having such qualities. And so, my one of the, I mean, of course, in order, I'm kind of butchering my own argument here, but just to the, I can give my what do you call it? I'll just briefly present the argument here. In short, here, let me see if I could just post the argument that lays out why we shouldn't, where I go into the actual thing. Let me just do this here real quick. I'm posting this in general. From P1 and P2.
Okay. Can I infer that there exist experiences of a particular... Okay, wait, sorry, that exist.
Oh, shit. Damn it. Can you remove that key, and then let me just...
Okay,
can you
yeah.
delete that real quick? Yeah, and then
Okay.
let me just... 1 second.
Let me copy it first.
Yeah, no worries. Perfect, thank you. Okay.
I just wanted you to
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thank you so much.
yeah, because you might find that interesting.
It's deductively valid, too. That's
Okay, maybe... Okay, I mean, it's kind of tricky. I have to think about the first one. Usually, arguments are rejected by the first premise. So I'm curious, like, what would you say for premise one? It seems a little too strong.
If we cannot validly infer or empirically verify that, quote, there can exist, quote, representations of particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities, end quote, that not only do not have the particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities that they represent, but are also themselves totally devoid of determinate or determinable sensory qualities of any determinable kind, from the fact of there being instances where we have observed representations of particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities as not having the particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities they represent, then we are not justified in believing in an essential premise in all arguments for illusionism. Well, what is that central premise that's necessary to all forms of illusionism? Well, it's that thing that I had outlined above, which was this. Let me just post this in the found. So I don't even want to say it's a premise. Rather, it's a presupposition, because it's not something that's blatantly expressed in their argument. It's something upon which all of their arguments. Well, let me. Well, no, you can consider it a premise, essentially. Well, no, maybe not. Well, I guess, yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, it could be considered a premise. So here's the thing. I'll just post it here. It seems kind of intuitively obvious that if we have
I
no
love this
reason
guy.
for
He's
no
so
empirical
funny.
evidence or any kind of reason for believing something, and if things seem to the contrary, then especially when it comes to this thing that I just posted here, this basis, well, we have no reason for believing illusionism if we have no reason for believing that this thing upon which illusionism depends. It seems kind of like, yeah, that seems plausible, I would think. And if things seem to the contrary too, then we have more reason to say that we shouldn't lend illusionism much we shouldn't be too concerned about it, basically. If they can't even if one of their most fundamental if that upon which the entire project depends is itself completely it's just a bare possibility that we have no reason for holding to. And if things also seem to the contrary on top of that, based upon not only empirical evidence, but the very fact that all of the instances of representations that the illusionist appeals to in order to try and justify his theory do not themselves allow him to logically infer from those cases to a case wherein we have representations of sensory qualities that are themselves totally devoid of sensory qualities, even if they do not themselves represent that particular determinate or determinable sensory quality that they represent. And I go into this in the paper in greater detail. But
Seems like it's a translation problem.
Yeah, so to maybe make sense of it. So, okay, am I understanding it that am I understanding that like the thing that illusion depends on is that there can be there could exist at least states that are represented sensory qualities and still be devoid of any sensory qualities. And if you think if that's the commitment they're holding to, are you saying that? But if there is a case in which representations must, have some sort of sensory qualities, then those aren't, illusionary, and so you can sort of instantiate the representations there, and so it would
not
be
exactly.
false.
Not exactly. So what I'm
Okay.
saying is that
I don't know what you're
the
saying.
illusionist, I'm saying what the illusionist is saying on the first section of the paper, where he has all of these instances of the. So let me just read this off
With
here.
like the color red example.
Yes, the color red example. So he says that. Let's go with the. So Frankish's illusionism cannot get off. Okay. How is the premise that there exist representations of sensory qualities, such as a representation of a red sensory quality, that not only do not have the particular determinate or determinable sensory qualities they represent, so like not only are they not not only do they not exhibit that quality of redness, they are completely devoid of any kind of sensory qualities whatsoever. Now, it's a very strong claim, that premise. That's something very strong. It's very different from saying that, okay, well, a thing can represent red without being red. That's very different from saying a thing can represent red without exhibiting any kind of sensory whatsoever. So, what are the arguments, or what are instances of him trying to justify this idea? And can he appeal to any kind of concrete examples of such a thing? Now, in my footnotes here, at the very bottom of the page, let me find this here. He says, quote, "Indeed, in another article, Frankish himself agrees with what I'm saying at this part when he says, quote, when I look at a ripe banana, I seem to be aware of a rich yellow sensory quality. Similarly with smells, sounds, tastes, pains, and other sensory qualities." Likewise, Frankish says, quote, "I agree that it seems as if objects of experience have sensory qualities," end quote. However, he goes on to say, quote, "These sensory qualities are not more present in the world around us than they are in our brain," end quote. Now, he goes on to say this later on. He says, in a similar vein, he says, quote, "We experience objects as having a distinctive but ineffable significance for us, which is a marker of their affordances. This is what we call their quality or
Affordances?
feel." Yes. End quote. And again,
Hold
quote,
up.
as subjects of experience, our interest is in how things seem to us introspectively, the
Where's he getting
illusion of
that
sensory
from?
qualities. He pulls it from Gibson, but whether or not he's
Does he?
yeah, he's
That's
he goes on,
crazy.
quote, and yet again, quote, we perceive things as having a certain impact on us, as infused with potent sensory qualities. However, he goes on to say, quote, sensory qualities are not really anywhere. Thanks to the combination of perceptual and introspective processes in our brains, we experience objects as qualitatively charged. But the sensory qualities don't correspond to real intrinsic features, either of objects or us. They are potent illusions, an imperative commentary generated by our brains to express the significance things have for us. What a crock of horse shit. Um,
So
so
does he have like a critique against Gibson? Is that what you know what I mean?
no, it's well, I mean, I think he would critique Gibson in a number of different ways, but
Yeah.
he's kind of like he's basically just pulling from Gibson here by
Yeah.
using a fancy term like affordances to try and like,
So many people take the fucking term affordance and just totally bastardize it from
yeah,
Gibson. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. I think Gibson would be rolling in his grave if he saw this shit.
Oh
But
yeah.
Gibson, yeah, bro. Gibson would be
Uh,
like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This is not
yeah,
affordances. What the fuck?"
yeah, exactly. He would be giving this guy's here, like, so that first image that I posted of the guy on the left, like with that disgusted look on his face, and then Keith Frankish on the right, that big bald fat guy with glasses. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like that's what would happen.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe okay, so I guess I suspect that like okay, so maybe your argument might work against Frank if that's the
Frankish. Yeah,
general version of illusionism he's holding to,
it's like
right?
the
That
only one.
um yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it seems that you can be an illusionist and not hold that any any observable perceptual experience available to you lacks all sensory qualities. I think that that's not a strict
It's
entitlement
it's
to
it's
illusionism.
it's not the experience as perceived as well too. So when I speak of the perceptual, so well again this is later in the essay. So we could look to the brain, for instance, here, and so he when he speaks, so in that case the brain is, or a brain state, or a particular region of the brain that's lit up at a particular section, right, at a particular time.
And this kind of
That
stuff is something that ecological psychologists are really familiar with. You know, like this guy's whole like indirect theory, basically.
yeah,
Here.
yeah. So he claims to be a direct realist when it comes to
Hmm.
perception, because he
How?
says that when we perceive things,
Right.
we're not perceiving our representations of them. Rather, our representations are vehicles by means of which we perceive the real world, which is just like, oh, for fuck's sake, give me a break.
I mean, yeah,
What is
he's obviously just trying to bridge like some kind of dualism he's made there. That's not.
Yeah,
he
he's
literally just
literally
said,
thinking.
I'm a direct realist, but I'm an indirect realist.
Yeah, it's literally. Oh wait, there's a reaction image that I have of him that's perfect right now.
Yeah, I can directly
Goodness,
perceive through the mechanism. Like,
yeah, it's like
But it gives
yeah.
us perception of entities.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Here, let me reaction here. Let me pull this out. This is like, let me see here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I have this kind of shit saved. Where is
I
it?
feel like you can make your arguments stronger with
Ah,
like just the basic arguments that ecological psychologists give against like these sort of dualisms,
I
right?
wish you could, but this is an internal critique essentially. Uh,
Oh, I see.
and not strictly internal, perhaps, but there is an internal critique though that I also give. I posted like 3 essays. Yeah, this is another. Yeah, in the general chat. That's Frankish. That's his reaction to what you guys are saying.
In general, oh. So this is the guy who you're talking about his view. Can you like
Yeah,
summarize? Can you sum it up? Because like I can bet nobody else was following, bro.
yeah. It's very 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 dense.
Just some of the basic problem.
Everything that we perceive is mediated by introspective illusions that make us think that the things around us that we perceive have sensory qualities that are that there is something. So Frankish says that there is nothing it is really like, so to speak, to experience anything that is ineffable or incapable of being studied or explained in terms of the physical sciences. Yeah. And so he says even
yeah,
too, for
Gibson would definitely be rolling in his grave.
he even says that you can give a complete third-person explanation of someone's experiences because the illusion, as he says, of what it's like there is to be something, the illusioning rather, that's the only thing that needs to be explained, not
is he
what
just
the illusion
asserting?
is of.
Is he just asserting this nonsense?
Yeah, basically, that's what it is. Yeah, it's unfortunately it's
Like he doesn't have any arguments for any of these
the
premises?
only argument that he gives is fucking fallacious. That the only positive argument, and I explained that why it's fallacious. And he has kind of like muted me on Twitter.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like that's what's the
Because I
argument?
bitch
Like
slapped him.
you just like ask like what's the argument for this premise? You know, like
And
you need
all he gives you
more.
is that face that you get from the whale. You know, of what's his name? The guy, the big fat guy that, or not the big fat guy, but what's his name? Oh my god, the whale.
And people actually like follow this guy?
Yeah,
Unlucky.
Why?
because he has glasses and bald, and he has a British accent. Yeah, here's like
I mean,
here's the
so like
look
they
that
just like bore people to death, like what you were just doing. Like they just go on this long tangent about determinant, you know, like just over and over
this
and
is
over and over and
when
over
you
again.
ask them for
Yeah.
an argument, this is the reaction they give you. Like check the general.
Oh yeah.
Bro. Okay, but like, what do you think the motive is here? Like,
I think it's really scientism, a bad kind of scientism, and a fear of the
mm,
unknown.
yes, I
They're afraid
understand.
to, yeah, they're
Fear of
afraid of
independent
things.
judgment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, it's the
They need
fear of independent
they
judgment.
need science
I'm
muss.
tired. I'm terrified.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
They're,
like the evader, you know, objectivism talks about evaders and like white the person who tries to wipe out reality. You know what I mean?
hmm,
Like
yeah.
the objectivism talks all about this, like these people who fear independent judgment. You know what I mean? Who think that if they just wipe out the fact that they don't have, like, it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? That they don't like have to address it. They don't have to explain it. You know?
Hmm. Here's a funny, hilarious
They don't have
thing.
to be responsible for knowing it because that knowledge is theirs. They don't have to be responsible for their judgments because those judgments are theirs, right? They're not theirs, right? They just don't. They just default on the responsibility of independent judgment. You know?
Here's I just posted a tiny like a 10-second clip of Quine, the WVO Quine. He's being asked. So like for instance, the guy that he's responding to, he asks him, well, you're a physicalist, right? So you believe that the only kinds of things that exist are physical. But you also think that numbers exist objectively, like they actually exist. But how can you reconcile that with being a physicalist if numbers aren't themselves physical at all? They're not. And so watch
Oh
the
yeah,
video.
they
This is
so what they
this is
cope
his
about that is
reaction.
that they have this weird understanding of naturalism. So
Yeah.
you've probably
Yeah,
heard of
it's
like
their
the
exactly.
three views, like so conservative naturalism, moderate naturalism, and liberal naturalism.
Yeah.
It seems that like under conservative naturalists, they wouldn't really be able to say that numbers exist. Now they can say this for moderate naturalism, as they might accept abstract objects and universals. And for if you're a liberal naturalist, you tend to be very staunch on still keeping naturalism, but it's not clear to me that has like a particular thesis.
I mean, I have a
It's
lot of
open and
there's a lot of
strong.
stuff that I have specifically talking about
You can
how
look at it in the side chat.
like how formal systems are sort of created, right?
Mm.
Like in materially embodied and all that, and like all that stuff that comes from basically Howard Patty's work on that, like the physics of symbols, right? Like how we can basically the basic idea is just that of like computational engineering, right? We dig a potential well deep enough such that whatever we trap in there, right? Like we build the energy barriers high enough, right? This is like a discrete switch, a transistor. This is how a transistor works, right? So it traps the some substructure of the like flux, like some part of the flux that's going on, right? And so it under its own ordinary fluctuations, the part that gets trapped, it can't it can't escape, right? Because we build the energy barriers high enough, right? So it can't escape on its own, right?
Mm.
And so we can basically ignore those fluctuations. We can ignore its material description, its material details, its dynamical details, right? We can ignore that because remember, it's like the fragment, right? It can't recover the original dynamics, right?
Mm.
So then we can give it a purely formal description, right? Where we can start, putting these in one-dimensional symbol sequences, and then those are like rules, right? Well, the discrete switches are already like they're embodiments of like syntactic rules, basically, right? It just like it's like a Boolean measure, it's like a one or zero, right? But we can just like that's like computation. It requires a purely formal description, such that like basically like I have these symbols, right? Like the rule says square triangle, right? So I just like I overlay it over the symbols or whatever, right? And so the first symbol is square, then next symbol is triangle, right? Because it's in the rule. You know what I mean? So it's purely determined by the rule. Like the next state is purely determined by the rules. It's completely decidable, right?
Mhm.
Fixed in advance, right? And so it's not dependent on anything else. It's not dependent on any of the material details or dynamical details. We can like under tolerance, right? This is all like physically, like we need the physical description for our engineering constraints, like in order to like tons of money and time, like time and money. Most of the time and money in physics is like spent towards developing these like engineering constraints, like to get our like formalisms working and stuff, like our measurement devices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Howard Patty has a lot of work on this. I can post like my collection of Patty's work. Very cool stuff. The physics of symbols and all that. But yeah, so we can basically treat it as like inert, as rate independent, right? Like I can like how I can it's independent of the rate of which it's read or written, right? I can walk away from it and come back to it, right? Like it like on the timescales of like for the purpose of symbol manipulation, right? Syntactic manipulation by the rules, right? On those timescales, it's like it's inert. It's just gonna sit there. You know what I mean? Because of all these, like I've maintained all these like constraints, these engineering constraints, these physical constraints. Like, and that's what computers are great at, right?
Mhm.
And that's just the basic thing. Like, I mean, like there's a total like physical explanation for all of this stuff. You know, for formal objects, right? For like, well, treating like it's like I like to describe it like you can't get reversibility in nature, right? Reversibility is literally defined as like a reversible process is an infinitely slow process. It's like Zeno's kind of it's Zeno's paradox kind of thing, right? It never ever reaches, right? Like when you're transforming from one state to another, it never reaches the next state, right? It's just an like motion is a set of points, right? Or motion is a set of immobilities kind of thing, right?
Mm.
So basically, in order to and again, Newtonian mechanics and quantum mechanics, they both are based on time reversible equations. They're based in like they only work, right, when we secure an equilibrium description, right? No irreversibility. That's why they can't admit the measurement
Yeah.
process, because it's So what we do is, like, I like to describe it as basically we're tracing an irreversible ring, right? And like sort of like suppressing the dynamics, right? We're using irreversibility to like move the irreversibility out of this ring. You know what I mean? To suppress it. So we can treat it under tolerance, right? As reversible. Like we could treat it as reversible under these conditions. You know what I mean? Like how like in order to like express like Newton's laws, right? We have to like craft we have to like manufacture like a frictionless air track. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We have Yeah, so like these formalisms, what they tell us is like they tell us what we get when we suppress certain variables, when we're able to suppress certain variables arbitrarily, right?
Mhm.
And so we can make machines, you know what I mean? We can like we can make things that are rigid and planar and like like we can start like this is just the history of it, right? This is why we made machines, right? Because natural systems couldn't do what machines do, right? They couldn't behave like our mechanistic formalisms, right?
Mhm.
So like think about how like machining workshops across the globe, right, are able to basically manufacture under the same it's like the international standard metrics, right, get established, you know what I mean, for this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they're like extrinsic metrics, right? Exactly for this, for like suppressing certain variables under tolerance, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna be heading out. I'm like about to fall asleep right now. This has
Sorry,
been a lot of
I was
fun.
like,
Exhausted.
I'm
Leave this
giving
poor man alone. This guy's just been trying to count the
I'm giving
BC
like a
for
whole explanation here, like a naturalistic explanation of all this shit.
Yeah. Well, this has been very interesting. Has it been recorded?
Yes.
Yes. Here,
Oh
I'll
wow.
did I link Patty's work? Here's Patty's work in general. Here's all of Patty's stuff. He talks all about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you're
Yeah,
interested in
and
that
I
stuff.
did see a
also, yeah,
let's yeah. Yeah, go on.
yeah, the video of the conversation that you guys had yesterday or the day before is already up on the channel, so you can watch it.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Looking forward to it. Watching it, that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I would just like to leave off like I said, I want you to like think about like my whole like I don't know, like my position on realism, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
what you actually like if you disagree with it, right?
Mhm.
Because I think it's like we're tending to agree on most things, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think mirror images almost kind of, perhaps, maybe,
Right.
maybe not mirror images, but it's something along those
And
lines.
it's like, well, like how I understand your motive for being an idealist again, right? Is
Mhm.
that, well, realism is basically not accounting for all this stuff, right? It's not permitting itself a large enough universe of discourse, right? It's
I
not
think
rich enough.
that's.
It's not rich
I
enough.
think it's. I think that's one of the things. But I also think too that it's there are certain aspects when it comes to like the structure of experience, as well as the certain kinds of fundamentally things that have to do with certain kinds of relations and the like. For instance, like Bradley's regress and so on. But a lot of other things that are uh,
Well, like
just not
think on it.
really.
I'm sure you can probably um like already by now get like yourself like a guess of what would be my response to most of those
Oh
things, or
yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
what
Thermodynamics.
I mean?
Yeah, no,
Right.
I'm just kidding. But yeah. Well, this
But
has
yeah,
been a lot of
for our
fun.
next conversation, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'll be heading off to bed. Thank you
I
very
don't know what
much.
we disagree with, man. I don't know what we disagree.
Yeah, it's like I don't even know where to like. Yeah, it seems like there's always like a kind of intersection of sorts. But Yeah, well, this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully everyone listening kind of enjoyed conversation. What did everyone think?
I mean, G gets in the flow, man, whenever he's talking to you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I like talking to serious people, you know.
Yeah.
Dude, I
It's
I
probably kind
really
of
want you to
refreshing.
talk to that computationalist guy.
Oh, God. Who is the computationalist?
Oh,
Um,
it's a guy who debated Zulu on
oh
objectivist
yeah.
epistemology.
Oh, God.
And
Was it
yeah, I
like a
mean,
bad debate all around?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
well,
We did a
kind
review
of,
of Zulu's debate, and we were like
yeah, like
dogging him. Sorry,
dogging
my mouth
on,
is dry. Yeah,
yeah. We were dogging on Zulu. I mean, like, obviously we don't agree with the computationalist, but by
Yeah, it's like,
all of the relevant, like, in
oh, he
all of
definitely won.
relevant ways, he won, yeah.
yeah,
He definitely
exactly.
won.
It's like it's so yeah. I hate when that happens when the debate when it's like the person on one end is like so stupid. It's like, oh my
Yeah,
God,
it's like,
it's
it's like when you're watching sports and your team is, like, doing dog shit, and it's like, bro. And it's
yeah.
like, you
It's like
know that they,
I'm rooting
like,
for the other side now. It's like
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see
It's
you
like
suffer, like,
yeah, exactly. It's
like,
like
bro.
yeah, yeah. It's like that meme where it's like yeah, Goyim extinction button. Where is it?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Pessimistic idealism. I don't know. You're always spending time in here, but I don't know if you got any like other, you know, academics, other homies who are like interested in all this stuff. Like I like bring them in here, man. You know, I need some more serious
Yeah.
people to talk to. You know.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a nomad. I kind of yeah stay on my. I mean, I used to be parts of like idealism Discord servers, and it's just like, oh my God, God help me. Yeah, it's like they're bringing in quantum mechanics and shit like that. It's like, oh, for fuck's
Yeah.
sake, miss me with
But
that
this we're definitely
nonsense.
like open to like discourse and stuff here. You
Oh
know.
yeah, definitely. And I've been like mostly excommunicated from all the objectivist servers, except the ones like, for instance, I was in the Charles II server all the way back and like I think a week before Charles II fell off the face of the earth,
Bro,
back in
I'm
like
curious.
2019.
Bro, I'm curious how you got excommunicated from Zulu Court, though. Like, what the hell
Oh
did you
yeah, that
do,
would have been
bro?
years. I don't even remember.
Well, I'd imagine he
Um,
just got into some argument with Zulu, and then Zulu just like banned him,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
probably.
I mean, I've become like infamous. Well, I mean, I used to be infamous. That is, I mean, I kind of just haven't engaged with those kinds of people anymore. But back in like 2020 and 2021, uh, when I was really engaging in like debates with objectivism about the certain kinds of things in epistemology and especially metaphysics and consciousness, the nature of the self, and the like.
I mean, I don't know
Um,
if you heard anything like this from any of them. You know.
oh no, yeah. I mean, here's. Have any of you heard of Brandon Cropper, Mr.
No.
Cropper?
No.
He was I don't know if he's still around on YouTube, but he's an objectivist, like a hardline objectivist.
I mean,
And
Mhm.
I
this
don't know, yeah.
this
Oh,
is
you're like
a
you know the history. Like
yes.
we don't know this stuff. We're not part of this. Like
Oh yes, yes. This is a screenshot from my debate with him back in I think it was 2021.
Hmm.
Let me pull it up. Here we go.
Dude, I
Yeah,
already
this
know
is
it's gonna
his
be,
reaction
yeah.
before a rage quit on his part. Let
we're just
me
gonna
find
we're just gonna
this.
get all the like old Zulu opponents in here and just see how much they've progressed, and like Zulu hasn't progressed at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
like,
God, that's yeah. Let's see. Have any of you heard of Slater? The guy named Slater? No.
I don't know. Name's
mm,
familiar, but like I hear that
Okay.
everywhere.
yes, later.
Wait,
Yeah, used to be.
pessimistic idealism. I found this
Yes,
Brandon Cooper's guy Cropper online. Is he the one that
he's
has
the
made
one.
videos? Well, I'm not sure if he's like the right guy. Is he the one who's made a video on how Jordan Peterson is wrong or incomplete anyway, and dark matter is bunk?
Possibly. That sounds like it might be him. Does he have glasses?
Yeah, he's like wearing like a Redditor hat in his profile picture.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's him.
Alright.
That's him. Here's yeah, that's him for sure. But we were in a debate about I was in a debate with him
Yeah, what's
years
the
back.
image? Yeah.
I'm trying to find it here. It's in here somewhere. I'm
None
thinking
of us
it's in
are
one of my
really
folders.
tolerated in the other so-called objectivist
I
server
bet.
meeting.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean,
It's,
objectivism isn't even largely focused on objectivism as much anymore. It's just talking about politics mostly.
Yeah, that and Israel. That's all they're talking
Israel.
about.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's like the focus of the political discourse.
Like,
It's like,
there's just
objectivism.
nothing like I go in there and I was like, hey guys,
Nothing.
epistemology is cool.
It's
Yeah,
like-
well, what do you think about Israel?
I know. That's literally what it is. It's like I was watching like Harry Binswanger.
Mhm.
It's like we need to get more money to Israel. It's like what? Yeah, or like why immigration like restrictions are like immoral, or it's like what? Or like why closed borders are immoral. What?
Well, that's a pretty good
Well, that's
position, I can
fine.
say.
Yeah.
No,
I
no,
don't care
no.
about that.
Yeah. Let me.
Are you a
almost
closed
here.
border? I don't know if
Yeah,
you're.
yeah. I lean
Yeah, I see
towards
you're
it.
a
I found it.
minarchist.
Oh, I don't even know. Are you a libertarian? I would guess not, right?
I used to be. You grow out of libertarianism eventually. I mean, I don't know how old all of you are, but you
Oh
grow out
damn,
of it.
he's like soy facing real hard.
Oh
dude.
no!
Soy rage.
Yeah. The clip is still online if you wanted to find.
Eesh.
It's called
I
an
think we're all
intellectual
adults
tree.
here,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think we'll ever stop being Rothbardians.
You will. You will be.
No.
You will be.
I
Yeah.
promise
It's like that
you.
Yoda clip. It's like,
I
yeah,
can
it's you
promise
will
you.
be. Yeah. But that clip though, that's like right before he crashed out. Yeah. And then my response was golden. Let me find it. Oh wait, it's on TikTok. That's it. Yes.
I mean, I've
Yes.
already totally integrated anarchism with all of it, like fucking like all the stuff about like the allocation of scientific resources and all that.
Oh bro, there you go. That's where your disagreement is, bro. Talk about fucking like
Oh yeah, shit.
that.
Pessimistic idealism.
Yeah.
That's where we
Yeah.
disagree.
Yeah. It's like yeah. Oh wait, here we go.
Fucking econ and law and shit like that.
all you gotta do is just show how fucking idealism follows from statism and how statism is justified.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I mean that's kind of interesting though too. When like the history of idealism, it's complicated. But wait, I'm trying to wait for this to load here. 'Cause on TikTok.
I don't know how else you'll be able to argue idealism against me.
I
Yeah,
guess I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to like understand how like a non-computationalist idealist could reconcile that since like,
Like,
computationalism and
don't think you
idealism
can.
share a lot.
the
No, I
bad
mean,
kind. That's the bad kind of idealism. The ones that say like, "Oh, we live in a matrix." Oh, or like, yeah, like that kind of bullshit. Let's see here. Just have to sign in real quick to this
yeah, and
because
that's
I'll
why I
send you
say
the
like
video.
you seem like a lot like a Berkeleyan. In fact.
Too commonsensical. Berkeley was like he professed to be the common sense
Yeah.
person. Yeah, he as he himself spoke. I prefer to. I am a man of vulgar cast, as he said. 641-090. There we go.
It reminds me of
Okay.
what Gibson says about being a radical and preferring radical explanations.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay. For more. Okay. And here we go. Found it. Holy shit. It's more extreme than I remembered. Holy shit.
Dude,
Okay. Let me
I can
send
tell this
this
is
in the
gonna be
chat.
really bad. It's gonna be so bad.
Oh my god. Yeah, I made an edit of it. So it's kind of like cringe a little bit. But okay. Here we go. Here we go. It's pretty extreme.
Alright.
And in my comment, my clap back at the end is based.
Look, Boomer, calm down.
Look, Boomer, calm down. He couldn't recover from that, and he rage quit. But what's even best though, he ended the debate, but he kept on streaming on his computer, and he forgot to turn off the actual like live stream.
Right.
And so he's going on his Facebook and he's like sending messages to people in his like DMs, and it's still going.
Oh my god.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
That would have
Oh
been
my
funny if he
God.
was like chatting with Netanyahu.
It reminded
man,
me
I'm
of
gonna
the
glaze you
Gibson
tomorrow.
quote. This is the Gibson quote that Berkeley quote reminded me of. That he's saying he's a radical.
Mm. Here's a good line from William James. Here's a good thing here. Let me see.
I really like this, bro. General explanations, as the reader may gather, I prefer radical solutions to scientific problems whenever possible. General explanations are always preferable to piecemeal explanations, models as they are nowadays called. And this is all that is meant by a radical theory.
I like that. That's a good line.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with that in a sense, I think. Here's a good
Yeah, man, I don't know where we disagree.
yeah.
It's probably
This
gonna
is a
be
good
low.
line.
Yeah, but that's not really relevant to sort of idealism versus realism.
Sure, that's not relevant to epistemology and stuff like that, obviously. But
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, this is a good, quick, like 10-second thing from William James's book.
Oh, William James? Yeah.
Yeah.
Edwin Holt was a student of William James, right?
Yep, he was.
And
He was.
so yeah, there's also a book called Ecological Psychology and Context where it talks about Gibson's influences and like William James and all that.
Hmm. Very cool.
Yeah, I can link that. It's a very cool book by this guy, this ecological psychologist guy, Harry Heft.
yeah.
Yes, the radical empiricism. William James, radical empiricism. Yeah.
Yep.
The legacy of William James's radical empiricism. James Gibson supposedly is the legacy of William James's radical empiricism.
Well, yeah, so if you want to play that video, it says Hegel wrote so abominably that I cannot understand him, and will say nothing of him here.
Oh, I have a meme. Here, I can
Yeah,
give you a meme.
Peikoff says something similar in his. Have you'd seen Peikoff's History of Philosophy, right? But did you know like he has a second part?
Yeah. It's like
You know that he has a second part to it, right? Where he goes over Hegel.
I'm pretty actually. Have I been seen the Hegel one? I can't remember if I have or not. I mean I've. It would have been years ago, but kind of.
But yeah,
he's my mind.
he says something. I'm like I. We can't really
Even
look at
talk. Yeah, we
Hegel
can't even
to
talk.
understand Hegel.
Yeah. Exactly.
we gotta look at this other like Hegelian historian, right? Who like
Yeah.
covers Hegel's ideas.
Yeah. It's. I mean, Hegel is an incredibly difficult writer. However, I mean, it took me several. I mean, I'm still in the process of
Oh, you should
working
see.
through his stuff.
There's this guy in our server, Josephius. He's like the best at like the Hegel interpretation, or not interpretations. What's it called?
Like, he's a troll.
L-
Clever.
or no, what's the word? What's the word? Imitation, right? Hegel.
Imitation. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. He's the best at Hegel imitation, like typing out like Hegel, some Hegel coded shit.
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
just very good at speaking in philosophies, like
Here's a. Let me.
Not
Speaking
so
of
much
which.
philosophies, but just like Hegelese, you know, something
Yeah.
different. It's a bit different.
Here's from a. I found this online. Where is it here? Here we go. This is Hegel. When Hegel wrote, it is posited that each of the two worlds is really the opposite of itself. The self-same really repels itself from itself, and what is not self-same really posits itself as self-same.
Hmm.
So,
What do you think? What was he smoking when he wrote that shit?
Let's see. Where's my where is it?
dude, he was on that pure weed, bro. He's like,
He actually died of cholera, and so it's like, did he die of explosive diarrhea?
Bro, just like I feel like there's some way you can make that into a joke with like Hegel's whole like thing where it's like his philosophy is like the purpose of like everything in existence, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Like there's
this has
that
been a
sort of
lot of.
narcissistic thing about
Oh,
Hegel.
wait. There's another meme that's. This is a really good one. Another Hegel kind of thing. Yeah. Let me favorite memes, Hegelian memes. Where is
bro,
it?
I'm trying to find my Hegel memes.
See. Uh, where is it? Hmm. Oh, this is a good one. Well, this is not Hegel, but it's still good.
Did you support Kantian ethics before the brain injury?
Oh man.
Uh, this is one I made.
What is this one?
The critical realists. Who are the critical realists?
Like George, so they came after the new realists, like E.B. Holt and all them. Yeah, they were like respond. Yeah, it's like only. Yeah. Oh no. Let me see here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, by Gibson's Reasons to Realism, I keep referring to. It's a book, Reasons for Realism, like a collection of his
Yeah.
essays and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with
Selected
it.
essays.
I just haven't read it.
Here's a link for it.
Cool. Thank you.
But his view is a little bit different than the new realist. There's actually I don't know if I should find it or link it for you later, but there's actually like a book, right? About
Mhm.
like new realism, like Holt's like new realism, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And like
Yeah.
an ecological psychologist guy basically like got like a spot like one of the essays there. Like it was
Mhm.
Robert Shaw, right? You know, Shaw has a bunch of papers with Turvey, right?
Oh, I found it.
So yeah, he wrote a cool like basically like the differences, right? Between
Mhm.
Gibson's like realism and like the new realist realism. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's pretty cool. I'll see if I can find it and send it to you later. Let me see.
Mhm. Ah, found this one. Good. Oh, that's a good one.
Here we go. A new look at new realism. I got it right here.
That would be terrible for
Ah,
the
yes.
dialectic.
Did you are
That's
you familiar? Are you familiar with this book? A new look at new realism.
yes. I think I've paged years back. I have it in my commonplace book. I have some passages from that. It's been ages since I've looked at it, but I specifically yes remember coming across that book and pulling some things from it.
It's
And
Robert Shaw. Also Harry Heft, the writer of the other book. Like the writer of the book Ecological Psychology in Context. So chapter 8 is Robert Shaw's essay, and Harry Heft is chapter 9. So he has, remember, his whole history book is about like Gibson's influences from, William James and A.B. Holt, but like he was very critical of his influences, Gibson, like where they went right, where they went wrong.
let's see.
But yeah, chapter 8 and chapter 9 there. There we go.
That's quite funny. Sense certainty. Yeah, I'm certain that I sense some fucking bullshit. That's quite fun. That's good. That's good. That's a good one.
So I mean, I don't know what your problem is with new realism, but maybe
Oh
like
God, yeah.
maybe
Never.
Gibson's ecological realism, right? As a reaction to new. See, the chapter is literally titled "Ecological Realism as a Reaction to New Realism."
Yeah. So, like for instance, like the new realists, they held a theory, what is called external relations. They maintained that
Yeah.
everything that is any kind of thing, everything basically, is essentially independent um, from anything else. So, like for instance, nothing can be defined in terms of anything else. Nothing is constituted by its relations to anything else. Everything is a purely simple
Yeah,
term.
I remember Harry Heft talking a lot about that and like Gibson's disagreement with that in his book. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's
like the history there. There's
ridiculous.
interesting history there. Like between the new realist and then going to Gibson's like disagreements, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think such a view like that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but
ecological realism was basically like it was birthed out of that like nonsense there,
yeah,
right? Like as a reaction to it,
born in the state
basically.
of original sin.
Yes,
No,
ecological. So, and this is an important point. A lot of people think that ecological psychology was a reaction against cognitivism, but they actually started like cognitivism and ecological psychology. They both found their beginnings like around the same time and just developed side by side across like the past couple decades. Right? They were both reactions against behaviorism. Really,
Mm.
there's some interesting history there too. But like, I
Yeah,
remember Gibson started like his whole ecological theory really in like World War II, same as what was his name? Turing or Shannon.
yeah.
Shannon. Yeah, Shannon did
Okay.
in World War II. You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be heading off now. It's been a lot of fun and really enjoyable. Yeah, really enjoyable. Hopefully,
Let me know about next time and what you want to talk about if you once you look into some of this stuff.
yeah, definitely. Thank you everyone for listening. Really enjoyed it.
That was great,
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
That was nice. Right. Bye.
Yeah,
Good night,
have a
sir.
good night.
See you. What's up,
Oh
guys?
man.
What do you guys think about that discussion? It seems like I don't know, man. I might convince this guy to become like a Gibsonian, like an ecological
I don't
realist.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess I would just kind of like, because what I was saying earlier was I don't know how he's gonna reconcile his idealism over any other idealism. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know
like
how he's going to reconcile his like basically like opposition with realism, right? In the face of him agreeing with everything I have to say, about realism.
yeah, yeah.
Because I mean he has oppositions against other versions or other
Well, yeah, you
views
heard what
of
he
realism.
said. Like, you heard what he said. He's anti-nature. He said it in the chat that like he doesn't believe in like a unification of the organism and environment, but
I I don't know if he
every
said that.
time, well, yeah, he said it in the chat.
Hmm? He
He,
said in
well,
the
he
chat
said
he
it
doesn't
like,
believe in
yeah, he said it in the chat.
unification of organism and environment.
Yeah, let me look for it.
But didn't he say that he agreed that the organism and environment were unified when he was in VC?
Yeah, I think maybe he's just like saying that in text and like because he's thinking about like other views, but then when I'm describing it, like he's like, oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, but I do not think that the relation between the bodily organism and the environment lead to several, or sorry, but I do think that the relation between the bodily organism and the environment lead to several antinomies that would, if we generally try to understand the relata as well as their relation, leads to problems.
Oh yeah, yeah. To be clear, we don't say the organism and environment are sort of like related, right? They're not like in a relationship, right? Because they're not two separate systems. It's a one system, right? It's not a relationship. Like we don't say we don't talk about organism environment relationships, right? We don't talk about how the organism interacts with the environment, right? It's one system. It's not two separate systems.
Well, I mean, I just thought it was like a reciprocal one, right? It's like
No, 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 no.
reciprocity.
This is what Harvaleto really makes clear, and like also like Turvey basing referring to Harvaleto, right? That the one like our view is like contrary to sort of interactionism, right? Where the organism environment interact. Right?
Well, that's kind of because I thought it was just dualistic interactions that we're against.
Yeah, but like we're against organism environment interactionism as well because that implies dualism of organism and environment. It implies some separation.
So, like, is synergy a better word?
Yes, yes, yes. Synergy is the exact word.
I get
Yes. See,
and like, what would synergy look like? Like, what is that? What's like a
like you have my notes, right? Look in the organism environment system note and like control F for synergy or organism dash environment synergy, right? Because this is important. Like this is all explicitly like said. Oh fuck.
okay, a combined whole?
Yeah, a coalition. Look or search coalition.
Yeah, a synergy or a coalition.
Yeah, and there's like a whole like Turvey like could just you would control F through Turvey's papers or Shaw's papers. Control F through Turvey's and Shaw's papers for synergy or coalition, right? Yeah, mostly coalition. Like search for coalition, you'll find this argument somewhere. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I'm saying like you could find it somewhere. And Shaw, here's Shaw's papers, by the way. In VC text, I'll link Shaw's papers. Here's Shaw's papers and Turvey's papers, which you guys should already have, but I'll link again. So there's like a paper they have, and it's in the Turvey paper, like where it's like they explain this view, like coalitions. There's multiple papers where he explains it all.
All right.
But yeah, it's all about organism environment mutuality and reciprocity. Symmetry and asymmetry.
Okay.
The characteristic, yeah. So the characteristic asymmetry can be reconciled with the characteristic symmetry if we move basically to a higher grain of analysis, right? That's the argument.
higher level of analysis differentiation. They get to
Yes.
the notion of the numbers being complementarity in the sense that they complete one another.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
That's like straight from, I forget which paper it was from, but it was straight from one of their papers.
Okay, so yeah, maybe he was right about it being a bit of a joke because he is holistic. Whatever that means for him. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, sort of. We're sort of like, again, I think he agrees with us. Because when I remember, I was telling him like this system, it's inclusive of of its environment, right? Its context of constraint. And he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like I don't know why he's holding on to the tag of idealism. I think there might be some sort of motivated reason behind it. I'm not sure.
Well, for years he's been a fucking idealist, bro. You know,
Yeah, he said he used to be a Schopenhauerian.
he's never encountered all of this stuff before. You know,
Yeah.
so maybe all this stuff will give him something to think about, right? Maybe question his premises, question his views. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen the tag he's got?
What?
What's that like?
I remember him
Oh yeah,
reading.
the role that he has?
Wait,
Yeah,
hang
it's
on.
funny.
Yeah, the role.
That's
Also,
like the first time Oh Knows has said anything this whole fucking DC.
Hello.
Hello. What's
oh
going
yeah.
on, bro?
Do you want to check
Nuts.
the group chat so we can get some insight on
I haven't. Yeah, I've